I'm clearly strong enough to slap an immortal emperor to death. Yet I can only be a blacksmith in this broken shop. Everyone thinks I'm just a mortal, but who knows that the rusty tongs I use for coal are actually the ancient heaven-slaying sword. Even the black lump used to prop up the table leg is the world-suppressing meteor iron that could trigger a bloodbath across 10,000 realms. It's just that as a transmigrator, I must take a disciple to unlock my cultivation seal. As a result, I've already reached over 1,000 layers of chi refining. Yet I haven't managed to take a single disciple. To keep a low profile and make a living, I had no choice but to open this small blacksmith shop. But the god-tier forging materials I get from daily check-ins are piled like mountains. There's no other way. I can only use them as scrap metal to forge simple farm tools, just for some peace and quiet. Until one day, the system in my head, which had been playing dead, finally stirred. Ding! Detected a top-tier target nearby, who meets the disciple's standards. Host, please take action immediately. Hearing the system prompt, I immediately dropped the hammer and scanned the surroundings. My gaze instantly locked onto a girl of 16 or 17. She wore a red dress, carrying a long sword, her aura as cold as ice. The passing Sect disciples around her were staring so hard their eyes almost fell out. So much that fish could swim in the drool, but she acted as if she didn't see them, and continued walking forward on her own. I quickly opened the system panel. Good heavens, the words reincarnation of the nine nether mysterious maiden almost blinded me. The next second, I hesitated no longer, and rushed forward to block her path. Move. Lang Kinkyu glared at me with a cold face. Why are you blocking me? Miss, please stay a moment. I rubbed my hands and took a step forward. Miss, I see that you have an extraordinary skeletal structure, and I wish to take you as my disciple. What do you think? Her lip twitched, looking at me as if I were a fool. A disciple, she suddenly laughed. That laughter was like ice blades, slicing right across my face. A blacksmith like you, with no spiritual fluctuations at all. Before I could react, she had already walked away. I shouted at the top of my lungs from behind, "Come find me whenever you change your mind," only to receive a cold snort from the distance. If she were in her peak period, I'm afraid I would have been frozen into an ice sculpture by now. Watching her receding figure, I scratched my head in frustration, failing on my first attempt to take a disciple. This start is just too hellish. I suddenly slapped my forehead. That's right, I'm a blacksmith who looks like a mortal, just talking empty words. Who would believe it? If I had known, I should have revealed the heaven-slaying sword. Unfortunately, by the time I realized, that red figure had long since vanished. After pondering for an entire afternoon, I decided to try my luck at the Tianxuan Sect's disciple recruitment ceremony. Early the next morning, I arrived at the Tianxuan Sect Plaza. Good grief, a massive crowd of young people had blocked the place completely. I squinted and searched through the crowd. Soon I locked onto that familiar red figure again. While the assessment hadn't started yet, I hurried over in a few quick steps. Miss, what fate? We meet again. Lang Kinkyu saw me. A flash of surprise crossed her eyes, but her expression immediately turned cold again. Are you still obsessed with taking me as your disciple? A smirk appeared on my lips. Of course, as long as you acknowledge me as your master. I guarantee it will be a huge gain for you. Lang Kinkyu's face instantly became cold as frost. I have already made myself very clear, and you are simply not worthy. I originally wanted to pull out a god-tier technique to show off, but hearing this, my enthusiasm vanished instantly. Since you put it that way, then forget it. After saying that, I turned and left, too lazy to waste another word. Lang Kinkyu watched my departing figure. A hint of mockery curled at the corner of her mouth. She was the dignified nine, nether mysterious maiden, who in this world is qualified to be her master. Her coming to the Tianxuan Sect was nothing more than for some cultivation resources. By the time I rattled back to the blacksmith shop in an ox cart, a little girl of 7 or 8 immediately came to greet me. Her name is Su Yao. I picked her up in the snow when I closed my doors 2 years ago. The system said she is my future eldest disciple. It's just that the timing isn't right yet. Seeing my distressed expression, Su Yao cautiously approached and asked, "Brother Fan, what's wrong with you?" I waved my hand. "It's nothing, just ran into some annoying things." As soon as the little girl heard it, she immediately dashed back into the room and brought me a cup of hot tea. Her thoughtfulness made me smile instantly. The worries in my heart vanished in an instant. I was lying comfortably on the rocking chair by the door, soaking up the sun, when a strong smell of blood suddenly startled me. I opened my eyes and saw a youth in black standing before me. "Boss, I want to buy a sword." The youth's face was as white as paper, with traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. Just as I was about to get up, the system in my head rang again. Target meeting disciple requirements detected. My movement froze instantly. I looked at the youth in black with suspicion. He seemed to notice my gaze and forced a smile that looked worse than crying. I was overjoyed inside, thinking I'd have to wait another 3 years. I didn't expect someone to come knocking so soon. The system panel popped up automatically, clearly displaying the youth's information. Without changing my expression, I handed over a rusty iron sword to him. The youth took it and paid. He turned to leave. "Wait," I quickly called out to stop him. "I think we have quite a fate. Why not sit down and have some tea?" The youth hesitated for a moment, then nodded with a bitter smile. After all, burdened by a deep blood feud, he had nowhere to go. I shouted toward the house, and the little girl tending the fire immediately answered crisply, "Coming." In the blink of an eye, she hopped out carrying a large solid wood tea table in one hand. The youth's pupils shrank violently. That tea table weighed at least 200 pounds. This little girl actually lifted it so easily, but I had long since grown used to it. When I first took in Su Yao, I found her strength was terrifying. She could play with hundreds of pounds of iron ingots like sandbags. "Brother Fan, we won't drink low-grade tea today." Su Yao tilted her head and looked at the youth in black. "We have a guest today. Let's have some good tea." Seeing how close Su Yao and I were, the youth's eyes were filled with mixed emotions. He picked up the teacup and gulped it down. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down. As he drank, tears actually began to flow along with the tea. Once his emotions stabilized a bit, I handed him a ragged towel. "Do you feel any better now?" The youth wiped his face, his voice still thick with nasal tones. "I'm sorry. Sorry for letting you see me like this." I waved my hand. Who doesn't have some sorrows? Especially someone like you, burdened by a blood feud and alone. On your own. The youth had been looking desolate, but upon hearing this, his body suddenly froze. The teacup smashed on the ground with a crash. He suddenly stood up, his right hand gripping the hilt of the rusty sword tightly. "Who exactly are you?" His vigilance was now on high alert. A stranger blacksmith not only invited him for tea, but also knew about his blood feud. Thinking of this, he swiftly drew the iron sword and pointed it at me. Seeing this, Su Yao immediately blocked the way in front of me. "You're not allowed to bully my brother Fan." I wasn't panicked at all, slowly revealing his background. Chu Feng, a cultivator of the Qi condensation realm, the sole survivor of the Chu family of the imperial capital. With every word I spoke, the youth's sword trembled more violently. "If I wanted to make a move, would I need to invite you for tea?" I chuckled softly and pulled Su Yao behind me. "I see your aptitude is decent. Are you interested in becoming my disciple?" Chu Feng's eyes widened, and the tip of the sword slowly lowered. He indeed couldn't feel any spiritual energy fluctuations from me. Yet I knew everything about him, even the massacre of his family 3 days ago. "You would teach me." His voice was incredibly dry, the veins on the hand holding the sword bulging. Throughout this escape, he had encountered too many traps, but this person before him seemed truly different. "What have you decided?" On the surface, I was as calm as a seasoned pro, but inside I was panicking like crazy, fearing this kid would turn around and leave just like Leng Kinkyu. "What can you teach me?" Chu Feng asked hesitantly, thinking to himself, what if this really is a great fortuitous encounter? After all, rumors say peerless masters indeed live in seclusion in the city. If I truly had the skill, taking a disciple wouldn't be impossible. Who knew that at this moment? I suddenly changed the subject. "Let me see that sword." Chu Feng frowned upon hearing this, but he still handed the sword to me. I took it and gave it a casual glance. "Too trashy." Just as I finished speaking, there was a loud bang. That fine steel sword was directly by my 2 fingers crushed into pieces. Chu Feng was stunned on the spot. That was a high-quality fine steel sword. Just like that, I crushed it with my bare hands. I shook the iron filings off my hand. "But He was about to say something, seemingly afraid his enemies would implicate me. I interrupted him directly. "You're a grown man. Why are you so hesitant? From this day forward, your enemies are my enemies." Thump! Chu Feng's knees slammed heavily onto the ground. He kowtowed 3 times in a row. "Disciple pays respects to master." "How often Good disciple, get up quickly. The heavy stone in my heart finally settled. Congratulations to the host for successfully taking a disciple. A small portion of the cultivation restriction has been lifted. Reward, invincible Vajra body, and unlocks the Eye of Truth, simultaneously helping disciple Chu Feng activate the special constitution, Nirvana Thunder body, and gifting the heaven-defying skill. I am a little mushroom. Little mushroom, my mouth twitched uncontrollably. Are you playing with me? What on earth is I am a little mushroom? Ding, replying to host. Just squat down, cover your head, and shout the incantation. To enter the absolute defense state. Immune to all laws and no attack can lock onto you. Holy crap, this cheat is too overpowered. Hurry up and give it to me too. I was so excited, I almost jumped up. In the end, I shouted for a long time, but the system didn't react. I was so angry I cursed it in my heart. This damn system is playing me. But the next second, I suddenly felt a warmth in my eyes, but it was gone in the blink of an eye. Su Yao just curled her lip, as if it were normal. Instead, Chu Feng waved his hand in front of my eyes with a shocked face. Master, are you all right? I'm fine. I quickly changed the subject. Since you've become my disciple, let your senior sister take you to pick out some welcome gifts. As I spoke, I gave Su Yao a look. Upon hearing there were cultivation techniques and weapons, Chu Feng's eyes instantly lit up. But when he saw my dilapidated blacksmith shop, he was immediately deflated. What good things could this broken place have? However, since he had already become a disciple, no matter how reluctant he was in his heart, he had to accept it. Wait, I suddenly leaned in mysteriously. I'll teach you a life-saving secret move. In the future, if you encounter someone you can't beat, immediately squat and cover your head, and shout, I am a little mushroom. Then whatever you do, don't move. Chu Feng was petrified on the spot. What the hell kind of incantation is this? He suppressed the urge to flip the table, and forced himself to bow. Thank you, master, for granting me the technique. I happily lay back in my rocking chair, watching the two of them walk toward the backyard. But as they passed the furnace, Chu Feng suddenly stared intently at the black stone at the bottom of the furnace. He was completely stunned. The stone beneath the coal was actually emitting a faint starlight. You should know that even in his family's proud treasury, they couldn't find a piece of this or the size of a fingernail. Chu Feng's hands were shaking. This is the legendary World-Suppressing Meteor Iron. He rushed to the furnace in one leap, looking at that glowing red stone in disbelief. Oh my God. His voice was trembling, pointing at the furnace with shaking fingers, when he was certain that it was the divine iron capable of triggering Sect bloodbaths. At that moment, his legs went weak, and he knelt down directly. Su Yao tilted her little head and looked at him, as if he had gone mad. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Chu Feng stared intently at that piece of meteorite, used as a footstool iron, felt like his heart was about to stop. If this thing were thrown out there, the entire cultivation world would go crazy fighting for it. Yet here, it's actually being burned as coal. His temples throbbed with anger, but he didn't dare to actually question me. He could only grit his teeth and continue following Su Yao. The moment the wooden door of the storage room was pushed open, Chu Feng's scream almost blew the roof off. The room was filled with top-grade spiritual tools, piled like a mountain of scrap iron. The few on top were actually still crackling with lightning, scaring him into kneeling on the spot. See, senior sister, he mechanically turned his stiff neck. These are all scrap iron. Su Yao impatiently kicked the pile of broken swords at her feet. Otherwise what? If we don't melt these, are we really supposed to go mine? Chu Feng almost choked on his own saliva. Good grief, using top-grade spiritual tools as scrap to melt is actually a routine operation. Trembling, he flipped through a few weapons at his feet. Every time he picked one up, his pupils contracted violently. When he saw a spear carved with 9 heavens dragon patterns, he broke into a cold sweat. The hand holding the spear shook as if he had Parkinson's. Master. Could it be that the old man plundered the Immortal Emperor's armory completely? Have you chosen yet? Su Yao kicked the magical treasures scattered all over the floor with her toe. Are we still going to the cultivation technique room or not? Chu Feng hugged the dragon-patterned spear tightly in his arms, like an old hen protecting its chicks. Then he turned around and saw Su Yao holding over a dozen golden glowing cultivation scrolls, walking toward the furnace. Terrified, he slid on his knees to block her way. Senior sister, you mustn't. Get out of the way. Su Yao rolled her eyes. Do you want roasted wild rabbit or stewed goose tonight? As she spoke, with a crash, she stuffed a pile of heaven-grade techniques into the furnace chamber to start the fire. The raging flames reflected Chu Feng's ashen face. The moment the door to the cultivation room opened with a creak, Chu Feng's eyes almost popped out. Divine-level secrets filled the room like worthless scrap paper pasted on the walls. The most absurd thing was a lost ancient formation map, actually being used to plug window gaps. He was calculating whether to steal a storage ring overnight to pack them up. Behind him, my lazy voice suddenly sounded. What, are you overwhelmed by the choices? My voice gave him a start. He hurriedly and panic-stricken bowed. Master, I don't think you're suited for a spear. Lightning-based techniques are quite suitable for you. As I spoke, I searched through the piles of paper like I was digging through trash. As you command, Master. Chu Feng nodded respectfully. Actually, he didn't like using spears either. Heaven knows how painful it was to be forced by his family to practice spears all these years. Every swing felt as miserable as lifting weights. Found it. I suddenly pulled out a grease-stained, tattered book from the pile of junk. Sunlight shone upon it, with faint lightning serpents slithering across, blinding Chu Feng so he couldn't open his eyes. If this thing were taken to auction, it could probably buy half the cultivation world. I tossed it casually. The moment Chu Feng caught it, there was a boom, and he was slammed flat onto the ground. The book was so heavy his bones almost fell apart. This isn't some secret manual. This is clearly a mountain of lightning. I forgot to mention, this thing requires a drop of blood to recognize its master. I added slowly. The moment he pricked his finger, the tattered book suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning and entered his forehead. Chu Feng pumped his fist in excitement, feeling that he could now blow apart the head of a sea transformation realm monster with one punch. Master, I feel like I'm invincible in this world. Wake up. I slapped him on the back of the head, getting cocky just from learning one technique. You think you're possessed by the god of thunder? I slapped him on the back of the head, getting cocky just from learning one technique. Do you think you're possessed by the god of thunder? Early the next morning, Chu Feng was spinning in circles, busy in the blacksmith shop. Amidst the clanging sounds of hammering iron, he accidentally glimpsed a blinding purple light shooting from the crack of my door. Driven by curiosity, he quietly leaned in for a look. My God, top-grade spirit stones fill the room like free pebbles scattered across the floor. The most ridiculous part is, a 10,000-year demon core is used as a night pearl for light. And among all my rooms, only this one is locked. Chu Feng's heart was itching with curiosity, just as he wanted to get closer to see clearly. I poked my head out with hair like a bird's nest. Yo, the sun rose from the west today. You kid woke up earlier than the chickens. Chu Feng scratched the back of his head and grinned foolishly. Master, I've cleaned the courtyard. I was just about to call you. Quite diligent. My eyes immediately lit up, as if I had discovered free labor. Come. Today I'll teach you how to forge. After a while, he put down the heavy hammer in shock. Master, something strange happened during my cultivation last night. He held up 3 fingers. I actually jumped from the first to the 3rd level of chi condensation. I didn't even look up. Still chewing a meat bun. Didn't I just activate a special physique for you? Small matter. Activate physique. Chu Feng almost spat out his tea. My nonchalant tone was as if I were talking about changing clothes. Chu Feng couldn't help but ask, Master, what realm are you actually in? Immortal, I replied unclearly with a bun in my mouth. Chu Feng's mouth twitched, complaining wildly in his heart. Like hell I believe you, which mortal can casually activate the Nirvana Thunder physique? This boast is way too half-hearted. Disciple wishes to train in the gloomy forest. He clenched his fists, his eyes showing a hint of stubbornness. I slowly brushed the dust off my hands. Go then, remember to bring back 2 wild chickens. After speaking, I casually tossed over a ragged hemp sack. Come back tonight to stew mushrooms. My casual manner. Anyone unaware would think I sent him to the next market to buy a cabbage. Heart knots must be untied by one's own hands to be satisfying. I squinted my eyes and tossed a pig-slaughtering knife into the sack. Chu Feng's eyes instantly lit up. Master, you've agreed. I waved my hand dismissively. Once you're done, hurry back to cook. That tone was like sending one's own kid to buy soy sauce. The gloomy forest is about 100 miles outside town. For cultivators, it's just a short stroll. but the monstrous beasts deep in that forest are not easy targets. By the ancient tree, Chu Feng fell with a thud into the mud, cupped the cold water and splashed it on his face. Blood mixed with muddy water spread across the grass. Beside him lay a gale wolf with its head cut off. The beasts on the outskirts are too weak. He brushed back his bangs, staring deep into the forest, squinting. Cultivators come and go around, like they're at a market. Can't find any good things at all. Must venture further in. He tapped his toe lightly, and his figure vanished into the deep forest. A bolt of lightning flashed through the trees, startling countless birds in the forest. Chu Feng wiped the blood off the pig-slaughtering knife, planning to practice that thunder technique upon returning. Just as he left, a pair of young cultivators followed right behind. The youth jumped off the flying sword and inspected the Gale Wolf's corpse. His pupils suddenly contracted. Such domineering thunder power. Killed instantly, a red-clothed woman named Lang Kinkyu kicked the wolf's severed. Full of impatience. "Let's go. What's there to see?" "Junior sister." The youth hurriedly stood up. A trace of imperceptible heat flashed in his eyes. Before the words finished, the two vanished in the forest. The direction they went, coincidentally, was exactly the direction Chu Feng left. Su Yao was skipping back after buying groceries. I suddenly squinted my eyes. Two guys wearing bamboo hats were at my smithy door, loitering suspiciously, holding a bleeding compass. "Hey, what are you doing so sneakily?" I frowned and shouted directly at those two. The two of them turned their heads simultaneously. One of them stared intently at the glowing compass in his hand and sneered. "This old thing has the aura of that little brat Chu Feng." Hearing Chu Feng's name, my pupils suddenly contracted. My heart skipped a beat. These two must be enemies of the Chu family. Before I could react, one of the dark figures flashed in front of me, placing a glinting scimitar against my neck. "Old thing, where is Chu Feng?" That voice was cold enough to freeze. "How dare you touch my brother Fan?" Seeing this, Su Yao immediately rolled up her sleeves and tried to rush forward. Her small face was flushed with rage. I quickly grabbed her. "Stop it. There are too many eyes in this town." Then I turned to the two men in black and gave them a harmless smile. "Don't be in a hurry, brothers. I know where Chu Feng is. I'll take you there right now." The man in black was clearly stunned. A mortal with no spiritual power, facing two Foundation establishment experts, is actually this calm. But then he thought, what kind of expert could be in this remote place? Consider yourself sensible, old man. Lead the way quickly. Arriving at the desolate mountain outside town, I suddenly stopped. "You're here to seek revenge on Chu Feng, right? You know quite a lot." The one with the scimitar lifted his bamboo hat, revealing a face covered in scars. "What? Want to be buried with your precious disciple?" I stretched my wrist, a cold smile curling on my lips. The two men in black acted as if they'd heard the biggest joke. They laughed uncontrollably. "Hawasa, just relying on a waste like you with no spiritual power." I felt incredibly satisfied. I was worried I'd mistaken them. Now I finally have a legitimate reason to strike. In the blink of an eye, I raised my hand and delivered a slap, striking the crown of the nearest guy's head. Just like that, a mortal waste dares to attack. The man in black looked disdainful. His body instantly flared with a protective aura, preparing to blast me into a blood mist on the spot. With a crisp slap, like smashing a rotten tomato, the man in black's head exploded instantly. Blood mist sprayed all over his companion's face. That protective aura was like it was made of paper. The remaining man in black was scared witless. That protective aura was like it was made of paper. The remaining man in black was scared witless. He shouted tremulously, "What the hell? This isn't immortal. He's clearly a reclusive old monster." He turned around and tried to flee. I spoke coldly. "Want to run after showing off?" I curled my lip and sent another slap through the air. Boom! A 3-meter deep pit was smashed directly into the ground. The man in black was embedded at the bottom, unrecognizable. I shook my hand, muttering to myself, the strength of this invincible Vajra body is all right, but not being able to use spells to fly is a bit annoying. I put my hands behind my back, strolling slowly back toward the town. I thought to myself, that little brat, his enemies have already come knocking. It seems I need to increase his training load. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chu Feng had just cut down a swarm of black-armored spiders, counting his spoils while covered in blood. 5th level of Qi Con condensation, feeling the surging thunder power within his body. He couldn't help but click his tongue. The cultivation technique master gave me as just too heaven-defying. He was wondering if he should kill a few more beasts to hand in as a report, when he suddenly saw a group of cultivators rushing in the same direction. Brother, what happened up ahead? He grabbed a passing cultivator in the chi condensation stage. An earth-grade spiritual fruit has appeared. The passerby wanted to curse at him, but upon seeing the murderous aura all over Chu Feng, he immediately cowered like a frightened quail. Earth-grade spiritual fruit. Chu Feng's eyes instantly lit up. He stuffed the spider legs into his sack and charged into the crowd, just in time to bring some post-meal fruit back for Master. In a short while, Chu Feng squeezed his way to the front. The 9-colored shimmering fruit on the edge of the cliff was exceptionally conspicuous. His eyes instantly lit up. But strangely, the cliff was clearly surrounded by cultivators, yet not a single person dared to step forward and pick it. Chu Feng didn't dare act rashly either. Even a fool would know that a spiritual object of this level must have a terrifying guardian beast. He scanned the crowd and found that most were rookies in the chi condensation stage, with hardly any in the foundation establishment realm. Should we make a move? The male cultivator beside Leng Kinkyu rubbed his hands, asking with an expectant look. Leng Kinkyu narrowed her eyes. What's the rush? Let's first see what that guardian beast is. On the surface, she seemed indifferent, but inside, she was already overjoyed. Although the Tianxuan sect didn't lack earth-grade spiritual objects, this 9-colored illusion yuan fruit was too important for her. It was perfect for stabilizing her newly awakened mystic maiden bloodline. Such a top-grade spiritual fruit is a once-in-a-century find. Tusk. Such a top-grade spiritual fruit is a once-in-a-century find. Tusk. That girl in red looks familiar. Chu Feng glanced at Leng Kinkyu from the corner of his eye, unable to resist taking another look. Leng Kinkyu seemed to sense something, and turned her head with a cold expression when she saw a rogue cultivator in the chi condensation stage. She couldn't help but frown. The male cultivator beside her immediately flared up in anger. Where did this bumpkin come from, that he dares to peek at my junior sister? Junior sister, do you want me to gouge out his eyeballs? No need. Leng Kinkyu sneered slightly. Let him scout the way as cannon fodder later. With a crack, the male cultivator's knuckles turned white from gripping. His gaze toward Chu Feng filled with malice. He had been simping for this goddess for so long. Today he had to perform well in front of her. Roar, a thunderous beast roar, made everyone shudder in fear. A mountain-like black shadow leaped from below the cliff. Looking closer, it was actually a red-gold thunder bear wrapped in lightning, emitting the terrifying pressure of the late Foundation establishment stage. What's the point of trying now? Some people were so terrified they immediately prepared to flee. Leng Kinkyu narrowed her eyes, observing the giant bear, although she was only in the early Foundation establishment stage. A flash of contempt crossed her eyes. A late Foundation establishment demon beast was nothing more than a fool in her eyes. No matter. After all, she was the reincarnation of the Mystic Maiden. After all, she was the reincarnation of the Mystic Maiden. Her methods were enough to easily toy with this animal to death. Not bad, not bad. These bear paws must be highly nourishing. Master will definitely like them. Chu Feng was calculating how to chop off the bear paws, while his eyes remained fixed on the fruit, wondering how to take both the fruit and the bear in one go. The giant bear roared again, shaking the people by the cliff and forcing them to retreat. It clearly wanted to use its aura to scare away these unwelcome guests. It had guarded this spiritual fruit for 10 whole years. How could it possibly hand it over? Junior sister, I will help you slay this beast. The male cultivator was full of confidence, a flash of fanaticism in his eyes. This was a great opportunity to show off his power before his junior sister. He thought he was, after all, the top genius of the Tianxuan sect's outer court. Killing a higher-level opponent was like taking something from a bag. A mere stupid bear. Piece of cake. Leng Kinkyu simply nodded faintly, her tone indifferent. Then I shall trouble Senior Brother Zhao. Upon hearing this, Senior Brother Zhao became instantly energized, excitedly rushing forward with his longsword. Boom! The man and the bear collided instantly by the cliff. The onlookers felt something was wrong as they watched. Senior Brother Zhao was being beaten back step by step. His proud sword technique struck the bear's hide, but didn't even cut a single hair. He was stunned by the fight. Am I not the top of the outer court? How can I not break through this beast's defense? In a mix of shock and rage, he roared with bloodshot eyes, I'll fight you to the death. But in the next second, a piercing scream echoed through the valley. Junior sister, save me. Senior Brother Zhao was in a state of absolute misery, and even his proud, precious sword was shattered by the giant bear's paw. But Leng Kinkyu remained expressionless, with no intention of intervening at all, as if the one dying before her was merely a dog. The sounds of fighting by the cliff stopped instantly. Senior Brother Zhao's screams also came to an abrupt end. Only the violent roar of the red-gold thunder bear remained. Half of his body had been crushed into meat paste. The cultivators around Chu Feng were terrified, their faces turning pale. But his gaze fell back upon Leng Qinkyu. His brow furrowed deeply. Just moments ago, he thought this woman had a cold and glamorous aura. Now he found her utterly abhorrent. She didn't even care about the tragic death of her fellow senior brother. Her heart was far too malicious. Facing the terrified gazes of the crowd, Leng Qinkyu's face remained as cold as frost. In her eyes, a useless simp like him dying is nothing. How could he be compared to her, the reincarnation of the mysterious maiden? Roar! Tasting blood, the Thunder Bear suddenly let out a long howl to the sky. It charged fiercely toward the crowd on all fours. The cultivators instantly fell into chaos, running faster than rabbits. Amidst the chaos, only Leng Qinkyu and Chu Feng remained standing. With a sudden whoosh, both moved at the same time. Their target was not the Thunder Bear, but instead they rushed toward the 9-colored spirit fruit by the cliff. Leng Qinkyu's pupils suddenly contracted. This rogue cultivator's thunder escape movement was surprisingly fast, but she was, after all, the reincarnation of the mysterious maiden. A red lotus flashed beneath her feet, and her speed surged. Both relied on their own abilities. They were just about to touch the fruit. The frenzied Thunder Bear also sensed something was wrong. It dropped the corpse and lunged back frantically. Just as their fingertips were about to touch, a giant palm wrapped in thunder struck down like Mount Tai downward. Suddenly, a violent wind raged. The shockwave blew away the rubble by the cliff. The Thunder Bear's gaping maw was right before them, but Leng Qinkyu suddenly pivoted and retreated. Chu Feng was stunned for a moment. Then his face darkened. What a clever move to kill with another's blade. A mocking smile curled on Leng Qinkyu's lips. Although this body was only 17, her soul was a ruthless character who had lived for 1,000 years. What was Chu Feng's speed compared to her? She had planned it all along, to wait until Chu Feng was crushed to death by the Thunder Bear. While the Thunder Bear was distracted, she would calmly take the spirit fruit. The Thunder Bear didn't care about any of that. It roared and struck down toward Chu Feng. Chu Feng hurriedly raised that rusty pig-killing knife to block. The scrap of iron caused a flicker of contempt in the Thunder Bear's eyes. A black light flashed. The expected scene of broken bones and torn tendons did not happen. Instead, it was as smooth as cutting tofu. The giant bear looked down at itself. Its right paw had been severed at the root. The entire bear was stunned. The next second, a heart-wrenching scream erupted in the valley. The intense pain drove it into complete madness, but it had learned its lesson. It no longer resisted with its physical body. Thunder erupted from its entire body, transforming into countless lightning spears, shooting toward Chu Feng. The youth's figure darted through the rain of thunder. The pig-killing knife swung in an airtight defense. The incoming lightning spears dissipated into points of light upon hitting the blade. What was even more terrifying was that he was actually absorbing the Thunder Bear's lightning power. The giant bear completely panicked. It suddenly turned around to bite the 9-colored spirit fruit. If it can't win, it'll destroy it. This beast is quite decisive. Chu Feng instantly turned into a lightning afterimage and rushed forward. Stop! Leng Qinkyu finally couldn't maintain her cold persona. The long sword in her hand turned into a sky full of red lotus sword chi and slashed forward. Two terrifying attacks crossed paths. The giant bear collapsed with a crash before it could even scream, but neither of them spared a second glance at the dead bear. Two hands grabbed for the spirit fruit simultaneously. A cold glint flashed in Leng Qinkyu's eyes. The 3-foot green blade in her hand suddenly changed direction, stabbing toward Chu Feng's throat. But the moment the pig-killing knife and the precious sword collided, the priceless Earth-grade spiritual tool in Leng Qinkyu's hand directly chipped a large gap. The expression of this reincarnation of the mysterious maiden completely lost control. Her wide eyes were filled with disbelief. Could that broken pig-killing knife be a divine weapon? In a flash, Leng Qinkyu changed her move as fast as a ghost. Her left hand formed the mysterious ice seal, striking her palm toward Chu Feng's chest. The youth neither dodged nor avoided it. His left fist, carrying violent annihilation purple lightning, clashed head-on. Bang! The moment the thunderfire exploded, Leng Qinkyu flew backward like a kite with a broken string, carving a long arc through the air. When she hit the ground, her face was full of unbelievable shock. Chu Feng looked at his own fist, stunned. Holy crap, is the technique my master taught me this overbearing? Impossible. Leng Qinkyu scrambled up with her hair disheveled. There wasn't a trace of a fairy left in her. Her gnashing teeth made her look like a gambler who had lost everything. Chu Feng didn't even bother to roll his eyes. He bent over and pulled the fruit and tree up by the roots. Seeing this, Lang Kinkyu completely broke down. She screamed and lunged forward. "Put it down. That's mine." The youth stuffed the fruit tree into a sack and turned to leave. Behind him came Lang Kinkyu's infuriated cursing. But he didn't even pause his steps. Lang Kinkyu stood up unsteadily, her disheveled hair flying. The color drained from her face instantly, yet a terrifying freezing pressure erupted around her. Chu Feng suddenly looked back. His pupils suddenly contracted. This madwoman is actually burning her essence blood, forcing the activation of a secret technique from her past life. Boom! A terrifying frost wave exploded violently. Lang Kinkyu's aura instantly surged to the Golden Core realm's threshold. The surrounding plants instantly turned into ice sculptures. An eerie blue light flickered in her eyes. Playing it this big, Chu Feng narrowed his eyes. "Aren't you afraid of dying from the backlash of forcing your past life's power?" Lang Kinkyu wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and sneered. "What does this small price matter?" She lifted her chin, speaking in a condescending tone. "Hand over the spirit fruit, kneel and become my battle slave, and I may spare your life." Chu Feng was laughed out of anger. "Does this thing have your name written on it? Is a fake golden core that impressive?" He flexed his wrist. "Come, let me see how many of my strikes you can take." As soon as he finished speaking, Lang Kinkyu's figure appeared before him like a ghost. Ice spikes rained down, stabbing toward his vital points. Today, she must completely nail this death-seeking rogue cultivator down. Clang, clang, clang. The moment the butcher knife danced wildly, violent purple lightning exploded from Chu Feng's body. Lang Kinkyu flew back again like a torn sack, breaking 3 ancient trees before barely stopping, and Chu Feng also retreated a dozen steps. The webbing of his thumb split, blood flowing freely. Nirvana thunder body. Lang Kinkyu crawled up, coughing up ice shards. The arrogance on her face was finally replaced by shock. Chu Feng shook the blood off his hand and sneered. "I guess you have some knowledge. Even special physiques are divided into ranks." Lang Kinkyu suddenly changed to a seductive tone. "Come back to the heaven profound sect with me. I will teach you the top-tier thunder arts." She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, her eyes burning with fanaticism. "Guaranteed to be 10,000 times better than fumbling on your own." Chu Feng was amused by the absurdity. "A scrapbook my master threw is stronger than your sect's sacred treasure." Lang Kinkyu interrupted him disdainfully. "Frog in a well. In my past life I was." "Just shut up." Chu Feng turned around and, "If you dare say one more word, believe it or not, I'll bleed you with my butcher knife." He didn't want to deal with this madwoman anymore. Lang Kinkyu's chest heaved with rage. Her nails dug into her palms until they bled. "Think carefully. To receive my guidance is a blessing from 8 lifetimes of cultivation." She gnashed her teeth, her voice filled with uncontrollable rage, seeing Chu Feng walk further away with the sack. Without even looking back, Lang Kinkyu could no longer maintain her facade, stamping her feet in anxiety. "That spirit fruit is very important to me. What the hell does that have to do with me?" Chu Feng gave her the middle finger without looking back. "What is your name?" Lang Kinkyu suddenly calmed down. A trace of sinister calculation flashed in her eyes. Although this spirit fruit is precious, it wasn't worth risking her life for. Chu Feng ignored her completely. Suddenly his ear twitched. "What's that sound?" The ground suddenly shook violently. A heaven-shaking beast roar echoed from afar. The resulting gale almost blew them both away. Lang Kinkyu's expression changed drastically. A great demon of the Golden Core realm. Why would such a terrifying existence be in this outer area? She suddenly looked at the headless crimson gold thunder bear on the ground. She understood instantly. Oh no, the young one was hit, and now the elder has come. A purple-winged thunder lion, huge as a small hill, emerged from the forest. Its golden beast pupils burned with towering rage. It smelled the strong scent of blood in its territory. It let out a roar toward the sky. A violent lightning domain directly crushed the surrounding trees into powder. "We're screwed." Chu Feng's back was instantly soaked with cold sweat. Did we just poke the nest of the lightning Dharma King? Lang Kinkyu had already silently retreated a dozen steps and suddenly crushed a life-saving talisman. His figure instantly turned into a streak of bloodlight and vanished 100 meters away. The cost was a face as pale as paper. "You little brat betrayed me." Chu Feng cursed loudly, seeing the thunder lion's giant claw carrying immense thunder slamming down toward his head. He closed his eyes in despair. This is really where it ends for me. At the critical moment of life and death, Master's punchable face suddenly popped out of his mind. Chu Feng gritted his teeth and decided to risk it. He abruptly threw away the pig-slaughtering knife, and with a swish, crouched on the ground holding his head, shouting at the top of his lungs, "I am a little mushroom." Boom! The Thunder Lion's giant paw slammed violently beside his head onto the ground. "I am a little mushroom." Boom! The Thunder Lion's giant paw slammed violently beside his head onto the ground, blasting a hole over 10 meters deep. Dirt mixed with lightning splattered everywhere. Chu Feng looked at the flying boulders through the gaps in his fingers and gulped hard. This weird incantation actually works. The Thunder Lion stared blankly at its own claw, refusing to believe it. It swung again and unleashed another thunderous roar. As a result, that terrifying pillar of lightning was like hitting an insulator, precisely bypassing Chu Feng, crouching on the ground every time, slamming firmly into the empty space. Edohata, Master is forever the GOAT. Chu Feng almost laughed like a pig. This skill is more absurd than wearing immortal gear armor. The Thunder Lion went completely insane, unleashing all sorts of world-destroying moves at Chu Feng, as if they were free. Instantly, the earth shook, and the mountains trembled, and everything within 100 miles was leveled. After tossing and turning for half an hour, the big guy was so exhausted its tongue was hanging out. The way it looked at Chu Feng was as if it had seen a ghost. Tired from fighting Chu Feng cautiously maintained the head-holding posture and moved backward. "Then I'll be taking my leave now." The Thunder Lion's tail whipped over with a sonic boom. "I am a little mushroom." Boom! Another small hill suffered a terrible fate. The Thunder Lion learned its lesson and simply lay there on the spot. Simply lying there on the spot, staring intently at this weirdo crouching on the ground. Consequently, the human and the beast stared at each other, stubbornly stalling from midnight until dawn. Chu Feng cursed in his heart. This damn beast can't actually want to stall with me until the end of time, right? The human and the beast stared until their eyes almost popped. Chu Feng felt his legs go numb, complaining wildly in his mind. Is there something wrong with this big guy? Clearly it was that crazy woman in red who caused this. Yet I'm the one crouching here, pretending to be a mushroom. He gritted his teeth at the Thunder Lion. "Have you no reason? It's not like I'm the one who killed your lackey." Thinking of that woman who ran faster than a dog, Chu Feng almost ground his molars to dust. But the Thunder Lion ignored him completely, with eyes as large as searchlights, staring intently at Chu Feng, gritting his teeth. "I'll fight you to the end." Before the words had fallen, he suddenly stood up and sprinted wildly out of the forest. Boom! A pillar of lightning slammed into the ground, almost touching his heels, frightening Chu Feng into a sudden break, crouching and holding his head again. "I am a little mushroom. Simply divine." Seeing the destructive lightning strike miss once again, Chu Feng grinned so wide his mouth twisted. "I was really scared witless last night, only caring about crouching in place. Now, as long as I'm not embarrassed." "You're the one who's embarrassed." Next, it was just like playing Super Mario. "You're the one who's embarrassed." Just like playing Super Mario. Chu Feng would run a few steps, and then crouch to pretend to be a mushroom, and the Thunder Lion's attacks missed precisely every single time. Seeing that he was about to rush out of the forest edge, the Thunder Lion behind him howled in frustration. "What's up? You still want to go back to the smithy with me to forge iron?" Chu Feng stood on the forest boundary line and smugly patted his backside at it. Roar! The Thunder Lion's claws carved 3 deep grooves into the ground, hesitating whether to chase him out. But suddenly, from the depths of the forest, came an extremely heavy sigh. The hairs on Chu Feng's back instantly stood on end, though the sound wasn't particularly loud. It made his heart feel as if it were being tightly gripped by a cold, large hand and squeezed firmly. The Thunder Lion whimpered in fear twice, tucked its tail, and fled back into the woods without looking back. Chu Feng was delighted. Gotta go, gotta go. He immediately graced his heels and rushed down the mountain quickly until he saw the smoke from the town's smithy in the distance. Finally dared to breathe deeply, rubbing his growling stomach. He rushed headlong into the courtyard. That kid Chu Feng is finally back. My eyes suddenly lit up. I saw him carrying a heavy burlap sack. Chu Feng bowed deeply to me with great respect. "Master, your disciple has brought back some local specialties." "Not bad." I rubbed my hands in excitement, as expected of Lin Fan's good disciple. Look at this bare paw. It looks full of collagen just by looking at it. Chu Feng quickly added, Master, I also uprooted that glowing fruit tree for you. I nodded with satisfaction. In this scorching heat, it's perfect to plant in the courtyard for shade. As I spoke, I rolled up my sleeves to start heating the oil. In the dead of night, Chu Feng sat cross-legged in the woodshed to cultivate. His cultivation experience soared rapidly, jumping straight from the 5th level of chi condensation to early foundation establishment. Frightened, he quickly stopped to regulate his breathing. The cultivation technique in this crappy book is too absurd. I must ask Master tomorrow. But just as he lay down, an eerie sword chime exploded in his ears. Chu Feng sat up abruptly. His back was instantly drenched in cold sweat. That chime seemed to possess a soul-piercing magic, leaving his whole body stiff and unable to move. He could only watch in horror as his body lost control and walked toward the storage room. Chu Feng desperately tried to scream for help, but his throat felt welded shut, unable to utter a word at all. The hair on his body stood on end, watching helplessly as his feet stepped forward one by one. When he realized he was heading toward that room with 3 locks the room, his pupils instantly shrank to pinpoints. Could a peerless sword cultivator have sneaked into the blacksmith shop? But on second thought, with a secluded expert like Master presiding, who would dare come here to seek death? What made his skin crawl even more was that chilling sword chime was clearly coming from that locked room. He struggled desperately to regain control of his body, but he remained motionless, as if pierced by 10,000 swords. Meanwhile, I was fast asleep, sprawled out, with a bit of drool hanging from the corner of my mouth. I was probably dreaming of countless spirit stones. Su Yao was shaking like a sieve under her covers. Finally unable to take it, she rushed into my room, grabbing my arm and shaking me violently. Brother Fan, wake up quickly. That crappy wooden box is screaming again. I rubbed my eyes groggily. What's all the noise in the middle of the night? Su Yao's small face was pale. It's the sword casket in the room you locked. Listen quickly. I sat up with a start, pricking up my ears to listen carefully. Sure enough, there was a sharp buzzing sound. My face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Wasn't the lesson of using you to chop wood enough? How dare you disturb my beautiful dream? I angrily kicked open the door and collided head-on with Chu Feng, who looked like he was sleepwalking. Master, and collided head-on with Chu Feng, who looked like he was sleepwalking. Master, Chu Feng acted as if he had found a lifeline. He scrambled and crawled to my feet. There's something in that room. It controlled my body. This is absolutely outrageous. I simply rolled up my sleeves and pulled out the keys. Su Yao and Chu Feng hid behind me, trembling in fear. I kicked the door open. I saw a bronze, worn-out sword casket standing alone in the center of the room. That eerie sword chime stopped abruptly. Scream! Why aren't you screaming now? Keep going. I raised my leg and gave the sword casket a series of fierce kicks. The clanging sounds made the whole room shake. Chu Feng watched from the side, stunned. He probably didn't expect his unfathomable master to actually act like a street thug. The weirdest part was that the sword casket actually swayed aggrievedly. But no matter how I provoked it, it didn't dare make another single sound. If you dare play ghosts and gods in the middle of the night again, believe it or not, I'll throw you in the latrine to suppress maggots. I cursed as I locked the door again, and yawned as I went back to finish my sleep. Chu Feng remained frozen, questioning his life. On the contrary, Su Yao looked as if she were used to it, and yawned softly as she returned to her room, leaving behind the ancient malevolent sword with a sword spirit inside the casket, shrinking aggrievedly in the corner. Didn't it just smell the scent of a supreme lightning body and want to take a breath? Just as dawn broke, Chu Feng got up stealthily to start the fire and when passing by that locked room, he wished he could press his whole body against the opposite wall. The psychological trauma from last night was simply too great. Although he had 10,000 questions in his heart, he understood that Master would tell him when he wanted to indeed. With bedhead and yawning, I strolled into the courtyard. Su Yao followed behind me with dark circles under her eyes. I thought this girl must have been terrified last night. She still seemed out of it even now. Morning, Master. Chu Feng had already efficiently set the table. The bear paw soup in the pot was emitting a rich aroma. Having a disciple to serve me is truly wonderful. I happily took a sip of the soup, Suddenly, I remembered something. By the way, 2 men in black with scimitars tried to get you yesterday, and I casually slapped them into mud. Chu Feng's chopsticks fell onto the table with a clatter. His fists clenched with a cracking sound, but as soon as he saw my concerned gaze, he forced himself to suppress that killing intent. Chu Feng's voice was slightly hoarse. This disciple has caused trouble for Master. Cut the formalities with me. I placed a piece of bear meat into his bowl. If a master doesn't protect his disciple, is he just saving it for the new year? I saw the kid Chu Feng's Adam's apple bob. He buried his head and ate the rice ravenously, seemingly to hide his reddening eyes. After a long while, he asked me in a muffled voice, "Master, I'm cultivating so quickly. Will my foundation be unstable, or will I succumb to inner demons? You have the Nirvana lightning body. Your body is forged by lightning, so you can push it as much as you want." I waved my hand, my mouth full of oil. But what's the use of only knowing how to cultivate? Another day, I'll take you to wipe out their nest for some practice. As I spoke, I took out the 9-colored illusionary yuan fruit like an apple and stuffed it towards him. He wanted to decline. I dismissively pushed his hand away. Keep it as a dessert after the meal. This thing isn't as potent as Erguadu liquor for me. After the meal, Su Yao's courage grew so bold that she dared to jump in front of the sword casket bouncing at the door. It made Chu Feng's eyelids twitch. I, on the other hand, lay leisurely at the door basking in the sun, watching my disciple busy himself with the forging, happily planning whether to prepare a few side dishes tonight. Ding, an ultra-premium disciple has been detected. Host, please sign for the delivery immediately. The system's voice sounded abruptly. I leaped up with a sudden spring, just as I was wondering, since there wasn't a soul on the street. Suddenly, there was a loud boom. Dust flew everywhere. I stared dumbfounded at the blacksmith shop's yard, where a hole was smashed, a massive crater. At the bottom of the pit lay a girl who looked like a blood-red gourd. I muttered to myself, "This system's delivery is way too hardcore. A direct airdrop." Cough, cough. The girl struggled to lift her head, seeing the 3 of us surrounding the pit. She quickly drew a broken sword. Although she couldn't even stand steadily, her gaze was as fierce as a little leopard in a desperate situation. "What do you want?" I saw the girl was so weak, she could collapse at any moment. Then Chu Feng spoke. "Master, should I pour her a glass of water?" I quickly gave Su Yao a look. "Yao Yao, go help her inside." Su Yao understood, jumped into the pit, and lifted her up. The girl's pupils shrank. She began to size me up with a strange look, probably because she couldn't understand how a blacksmith with not a shred of spiritual power could have such a loud voice. "Stop keeping a straight face. Sit down." I casually dragged an iron stool over, smiling like a friendly neighborhood uncle. The girl named Muzu hesitated for a moment, but still said thank you. But she gripped the broken sword in her hand even tighter. It seems her vigilance is exceptionally strong. Chu Feng brought out the water. Muzu took the worn-out tea mug, her knuckles turning white from gripping it. Yet she didn't take a single sip. I laughed inwardly. This girl's guard is quite high. So I asked her half-jokingly, "Miss, how did you fall from the sky?" "Miss, how did you fall from the sky? Did you forget to get a license for sword flying?" Muzu snorted coldly, betrayed by a senior sister from my sect. I immediately pretended to look around. She spoke coldly. "Stop looking. The people chasing me have already been left 100 miles behind." So this girl's name is Muzu. She was once the proud genius of the Qingyun sword sect, but the sect master's daughter colluded with outsiders and extracted her natural sword bone, then sent people to hunt her down all the way. She finally managed to escape this time, but because her injuries were too severe and her spiritual power was exhausted, she fell from midair. The cultivation world really is dark. I sighed inwardly. That's right, the system had already told me everything about this girl, down to her ancestors. "Miss Mew, how about becoming my disciple?" The thought hit me in a rush, and I suddenly flung aside the rag I was using to wipe my sweat, scaring Chu Feng so badly that the teapot in his hand fell. Su Yao's eyes lit up instead. Finally, she was going to have a junior sister. Muzu trembled all over and looked at me in disbelief. "How do you know my surname is Mew? Just tell me whether you'll accept me as your master or not." I asked again with a smile. I saw Muzu so conflicted that her nails were about to dig into her flesh. She probably could not understand how a mortal blacksmith like me knew her background, or why I had an early foundation establishment disciple serving beside me. "My master is incredibly powerful." Chu Feng quickly chimed in from the side. His fervent little look pleased me quite a bit. "All right," Muzu finally nodded. She probably thought that since her sword bone was gone, her life was already ruined, so it made no difference who she took as master. From today onward, you are my third disciple, Muzu. I cheerfully pointed at Su Yao and Chu Feng. This is your eldest senior sister, and your second senior brother. Muzu respectfully performed the disciple ceremony, but when she raised her head and saw Su Yao, she was obviously stunned for a moment. Such a tiny little thing was actually the eldest senior sister. Hello, junior sister. Su Yao put her hands behind her back like an old senior. Her little act made all of us laugh. In the cultivation world, strength has always been what matters most. Who cares about age? I told Su Yao to take Muzu to wash her face. As soon as I finished speaking, the little girl eagerly grabbed her and ran into the house, as if she had just found a new toy. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have obtained a reward package for gaining your third disciple. The invincible Vajra body has advanced into the immortal chaos body. The absolute defense skill has been successfully unlocked. Third disciple Muzu has obtained the 9-turn Nirvana sword bone and unlocked a heaven-defying skill. Back off, back off, back off. I frowned at the system panel glowing with golden light. Immortal Chaos Body sounded pretty intimidating, but Absolute Defense seemed way too low-key. I tried silently chanting Absolute Defense in my heart. Good grief, not even a halo appeared around me. It was as if nothing had happened at all. I wondered if this thing was some fake, low-quality product. System, get out here. What exactly is this skill supposed to do? Ding, Absolute Defense is a passive skill and does not need to be activated. It can ignore all law-based attacks, grant immunity to all damage, and reflect 100% of physical impact. Oh, that actually sounds pretty powerful. Then what on earth is Muzu's back off skill? As long as she puts both hands on her waist, steps forward with her left foot, and shouts back off 3 times, she can form an invincible aura that forcibly repels any attack or enemy 10 miles away, ignoring level differences. The corner of my mouth twitched, so it is basically a forced displacement skill. The system's rewards are way too random, and it even comes with old lady square dance energy. Just as I was complaining inwardly, I saw Muzu now cleaned up, push the door open and walk out. The girl who had been covered in blood earlier had changed into coarse cloth clothes, yet they still could not hide her cold, aloof aura. Standing there, she looked like a moving iceberg, as if the temperature in the courtyard had dropped by several degrees. Looking at the completely refreshed Muzu, I asked her, "How do you feel now? I casually reattached your sword bone just now." Muzu was clearly stunned after hearing this. Chu Feng, standing beside her, was so anxious he kept stamping his feet. "Junior sister, hurry up and try it. The opportunities Master gives are always incredible." I watched as Muzu closed her eyes with doubt. Suddenly, her whole body trembled. A surge of heaven-piercing sword intent erupted from within her, shooting straight into the clouds. My lost sword bone has actually returned, and it is even stronger than before. She suddenly raised her head and looked at me as if she had seen a ghost. I waved my hand calmly. "Basic operation. No need to make such a fuss. I'll teach you another life-saving chant. When facing danger, put hands on hips, step forward with the left foot, and shout 'Begone, begone, begone' 3 times. Muzu was stunned on the spot. A rare crack appeared on her eternal iceberg face. Young Chu Feng, however, rubbed his hands in excitement. "Master, I want to spar with junior sister to try this new skill. Let's go." With a wave of my hand, I led the 3 of them to the backyard. Passing by the locked room, I noticed Muzu curiously glancing at the sword casket in that room. Once in the backyard, Chu Feng immediately took a starting stance. "Junior sister, feel free to attack." Muzu looked at me with some hesitation. Seeing me nod in agreement, she finally let out a sharp cry. "Senior brother, forgive me." Before the words had even faded, she had already turned into an afterimage and rushed toward Chu Feng. I could tell she wasn't using her full strength, probably fearing she might hurt this silly-looking second senior brother, who knew that Chu Feng would suddenly squat on the ground and cover his head. Screaming at the top of his lungs, "I am a little mushroom," he instantly curled up into a ball. I sighed helplessly, rubbing my forehead. This silly disciple used all the skills I taught him just for antics. Muzu's offensive did not slacken, but just as her sword finger was about to touch Chu Feng's clothes, that sharp sword chi unexpectedly took a weird turn. With a loud boom, a half-meter deep crater was smashed into the ground. Fragments of rock flew past the hem of Chu Feng's pants. "This is ghostly." Refusing to believe it, Muzu thrust another sword strike. This time, she increased her spiritual power. As a result, the sword chi acted like it hit a magnet of the same pole, making a sharp right-angled turn right before her eyes, and striking the nearby tree. Chu Feng was still squatting there, trembling. "Junior sister, isn't your senior brother's invincible mushroom shield cool?" I rubbed my chin, watching with great satisfaction, thinking that this skill simply rubbed the laws of physics into the dirt. Su Yao was clapping enthusiastically beside me, her eyes shining as if she had found a new toy. My turn, my turn. Chu Feng stood up, rubbing his palms in anticipation, and urged, "Junior sister, quickly show your begone, begone, begone." Ultimate move. I saw the tips of Mu Zu's ears instantly turn red. Her mouth opened slightly. Such an embarrassingly over-the-top move and mantra were impossible for an ice beauty like her to perform. She could only cast a pleading look toward me, but I shouted to Chu Feng with a mischievous grin, "I suggest you'd better use your full strength." I saw Chu Feng clearly feel a chill down his spine, but the arrow was already on the string and had to be released. He could only sink his chi to the dantian as lightning erupted all over his body. His fist, carrying violent thunderous power, rushed straight at Mu Zu's face. "Begone, begone, begone." Pressed to the limit, Mu Zu closed her eyes, put hands on hips, stepped forward with the left foot, and shouted the words. Her entire face was so red it looked like it was about to bleed. Bang! To the shock of everyone watching, Chu Feng was like being hit by a high-speed spiritual energy train, struck head-on. He was sent flying backward at 10 times the speed he had rushed in, tracing a perfect parabola in midair, flying straight past the town boundary until even his shadow vanished. The courtyard instantly became so quiet that only the wind could be heard. Su Yao's mouth hung open, and the half-piece of cucumber in her hand fell to the ground. Mu Zu stared blankly at her own hands, her eyes filled with disbelief. I swallowed hard. This is called a knockback. This is practically a human cannon. A full half-hour passed before Chu Feng came running back from outside the town, covered in dust. His hair had been blown into a bird's nest by the wind. He looked at Mu Zu with eyes full of awe. "Junior sister, this move of yours is way too brutal. I almost thought I was going to see my great-grandmother." Mu Zu lowered her head, her face flushing red, and whispered an apology. I burst out laughing. All right. From now on, this will be our blacksmith shop's signature act. You've all practiced well. Tonight, we'll have roasted bear paws for an extra treat." In the following days, the blacksmith shop returned to its usual peace. Every morning, I took Chu Feng to forge iron. Su Yao was responsible for cooking, while Mu Zu chopped wood in the courtyard, calling it chopping wood. But actually, the broken axe I gave her for chopping wood was a fragment of the ancient heaven-opening axe. Every swing she made was tempering her Nirvana 9-turn sword bone. At first, the girl felt wronged that a dignified genius sword cultivator had fallen to chopping wood every day. But when she discovered that the spiritual power in her body was several times purer than before, and that her sword bone was faintly emitting a golden light, chopping wood more energetically than anyone, even staying awake all night, almost chopping all the wood in the yard into toothpicks. This noon, Chu Feng was blacksmithing shirtless by the furnace. Sweat flowed down his firm muscles. I was on a lounge chair nearby, drinking spiritual tea brewed by Su Yao. Life was truly cozy. Suddenly, the wooden door of the smithy was kicked open. With a loud bang, the door flew into the yard and hit the anvil. Sparks flew everywhere. I frowned and sat up. Who is so uncivilized, daring to smash my door? Several people in Cyan Taoist robes stood at the door. Leading them was a middle-aged man with a pointed mouth and monkey-like features. His whole body radiated the pressure of the golden core stay. Behind him followed a young woman with her chin held high. The woman was dressed luxuriously, holding a shimmering treasure sword. Seeing this posture, I knew trouble had arrived. The moment Mu Zu saw that woman, her wood-chopping motion stopped abruptly. Her whole body couldn't stop trembling. Her eyes instantly turned red. Gritting her teeth, she squeezed out a few words. "Liu Ruyan. So this is the one who dug out Mu Zu's sword bone. The Qingyun Sword Sect's young sect master." The woman named Liu Ruyan contemptuously scanned this shabby yard. Her gaze finally landed on Mu Zu. She covered her mouth and giggled. "Oh, I wondered where you had fled to." She covered her mouth and giggled. "Oh, I wondered where you had fled to. Turns out you're hiding in this stinking smithy as a servant. Junior sister, Mu Zu. Life without a sword bone must be hard, right?" Mu Zu trembled with rage. Holding that broken axe, she was about to rush forward. Chu Feng grabbed her, protecting her behind him, holding a red-hot hammer he had just forged, staring coldly at the opposite side. "Who are you people, daring to act wild on my master's territory?" The middle-aged man snorted coldly. "A mere mortal smithy dares to speak so arrogantly. I am the law enforcement elder of the Qingyun Sword Sect. Sect. Today I have come to capture the Sect traitor, Muzu. If you are wise, hand her over quickly. Otherwise, I will level this shabby shop along with you. I was amused upon hearing this. I slowly stood up from the lounge chair, brushing the dust off my clothes. King Yun's Sword Sect. Never heard of it, but anyone who enters my smithy is my person. You came and smashed the door. How will you pay for the door? The law enforcement elder acted as if he heard a huge joke. A mortal ant without even a shred of spiritual power actually dares to ask a golden core cultivator for door money. His gaze turned cold. He casually swung a sword chi straight at my face. Seeking death, Chu Feng was shocked. Master, be careful. Without thinking, he blocked me directly. He covered his head with his hands and suddenly squatted down. I am a little mushroom. That sword chi, capable of splitting a mortal in half, hit a foot away from Chu Feng's body. Like a clay ox entering the sea, not even a splash was made. It vanished without a trace. The people opposite were all dumbfounded. Liu Ruyan widened her eyes. How is this possible? Elder Wang's angry strike didn't even tear this kid's clothes. Elder Wang was also full of disbelief. The sword chi of a dignified golden core cultivator was actually neutralized by a weird posture. Chu Feng squatted on the ground and looked up with a grin. Just this, not even enough to scratch my itch. Elder Wang was enraged by shame. He drew the long sword from his back. Playing tricks. Die. He turned into a science sword light and stabbed toward Chu Feng. This was the secret technique of King Yun's Sword Sect. King Yun ascending. The sword momentum was like a rainbow, unavoidable. Chu Feng knew this move was powerful, but he refused to dodge. He just stayed there, tightly holding his head and squatting. With a loud boom, the tip of the sword precisely hit above Chu Feng's head. But a strange scene occurred. Elder Wang felt as if his sword had hit an unshakable divine mountain. A massive recoil force traveled along the sword body. With a crack, his proud mid-grade earth-rank spiritual sword actually shattered inch by inch. Elder Wang spat out a mouthful of blood. He flew backward and crashed at the door. His eyes were full of terror. What kind of evil art is this? Liu Ruyan was frightened pale, retreating repeatedly. Chu Feng stood up and patted the dust off his backside, his face full of pride. The invincible mushroom shield, taught by my master, unrivaled in the world. I nodded with satisfaction. Although this kid usually looks simple-minded, he's quite protective at critical moments. Watching this scene, Muzu could not stop the tears from welling up in her eyes. Back when she was in the King Yun Sword Sect, though a genius, she was plotted against everywhere. No one had ever protected her so unconditionally. Chu Feng turned to look at Liu Ruyan, his gaze turning cold. You dug out my junior sister's sword bone. Since you've come today, don't think you'll leave in one piece. Liu Ruyan forced herself to stay calm and shouted sternly, you dare touch me. I am the young sect master of the King Yun Sword Sect. My father is a nascent soul stage powerhouse. If you dare touch a single finger of mine, the King Yun Sword Sect will ensure you have no place to be buried. I picked my ear, walked over to Chu Feng, and took the rusty iron hammer from his hand. My disciple, why waste words on someone like this? If you can act, try not to argue. After speaking, I weighed the hammer in my hand. Looking at Liu Ruyan, is it a big deal that your father is a nascent soul powerhouse? Today, I'll give you a proper education on your father's behalf. Liu Ruyan looked at me, a mortal with no spiritual power, holding a rusty iron hammer as I walked over. A flash of panic crossed her eyes, but she still forced herself to draw that shimmering precious sword. Don't come any closer. This is a heaven-grade spiritual sword. Slaying a mortal like you takes but a single thought. I ignored her completely and swung the hammer down casually. Liu Ruyan raised her sword to block in terror. A loud clang echoed under everyone's incredulous gazes. That heaven-grade spiritual sword, said to cut iron like butter, like a piece of brittle glass, was smashed directly by my rusty blacksmith hammer into shards flying everywhere. Not only that, the hammer's momentum remained, striking down along her arm. With a loud bang, Liu Ruyan screamed and fell to her knees. The right hand holding the sword was instantly fractured. Her spiritual power dissipated completely. Her proud cultivation under this single blow was actually directly crippled. A deathly silence fell over the scene. Elder Wang lay on the ground shivering, not even daring to breathe loudly. A mortal smashed a heaven-grade sword and crippled the young sect master with one blow. Is this a mortal? This is simply a monster. Muzu looked at me blankly. Tears finally couldn't be held back and fell. She thought she would never get revenge in her life. To think a casual blow from Master could drag her once lofty enemy into the dust. I tossed the hammer back to Chu Feng, turned to look at Muzu. Go on, settle the rest yourself. Muzu took a deep breath, wiped away her tears, carrying that rusty axe. She walked step by step to Liu Ruyan. Where was any trace of Liu Ruyan's arrogance now? She crawled backward in terror. Don't come closer. I'll give the sword bone back to you. Please spare me. Muzu's gaze was ice cold. My sword bone has already been reshaped by Master. Your filthy things disgust me. You dug out my sword bone and severed my path of cultivation. Today I shall cripple your meridians and sever your immortal path. The axe rose and fell. Liu Ruyan let out a blood-curdling scream like a slaughtered pig, completely becoming a useless person. Elder Wang saw the situation was dire and tried to scramble out of the courtyard. I sneered. Want to leave? You haven't paid for the door yet. I casually picked up a piece of broken door plank and threw it, hitting Elder Wang square in the back. He spat out a large mouthful of blood with a thud and fell unconscious. Throw these 2 pieces of trash out. Don't let them dirty our courtyard. I yawned, turned around to go back inside for a nap. Chu Feng tossed the 2 of them onto the main road like they were little chicks, attracting a crowd of surrounding townspeople. Muzu stood in the courtyard, looking at my back, suddenly knelt down with a thud, kowtowing 3 times heavily. Master's great kindness. Muzu will never forget it for as long as she lives. From this day forward, this life of Muzu belongs to Master. I waved my hand without looking back. Chop the wood properly and don't be lazy. Eat less meat for dinner. Actually, I'm feeling incredibly smug. This act of pretending was simply perfect. If I weren't afraid of breaking my persona, I would have laughed out loud to the sky 3 times. In the evening, Su Yao prepared a sumptuous dinner. A big white goose stewed with century-old He Shu Wu. The aroma drifted across half the street. The 4 of us, Master and disciples, gathered around the stone table and feasted. Although Muzu ate gracefully, her chopsticks moved not slowly at all. Clearly, she had completely let go of her inner turmoil and integrated into this eccentric blacksmith shop. While eating, I casually mentioned the Tianxuan Sect's disciple recruitment ceremony will officially begin in a few days. The town will surely be very lively. Let's go join the crowd and buy some high-quality iron ore. Chu Feng's eyes lit up upon hearing this. Master, could it be that you want to take another disciple? I glared at him. What disciple? Having the 3 of you annoy me is enough. I'm going to see if there's any cheap, refined iron. Chu Feng scratched his head and chuckled foolishly. Muzu, on the other hand, looked thoughtful. She knew that the Tianxuan sect had immense influence in this area, and it was said that Leng Qinkyu, the reincarnation of some 9 nether mysterious maiden, was also from the Tianxuan sect. Thinking of Leng Qinkyu, the scene of stopping her on the street that day surfaced in my mind. That woman was as arrogant as a peacock. I wonder if I'll run into her this time. But it doesn't matter, as long as she doesn't provoke me. I can't be bothered to acknowledge her. After eating and drinking their fill, everyone returned to their rooms to rest. In the middle of the night, that locked storage room became restless again. That bronze sword box emitted a humming sword cry once more, and this time it was more intense than before. Even the door was shaking along with it. I was tossed and turned, unable to sleep due to the noise. I was absolutely fuming. Will this broken sword box ever stop? Does it really think I have a good temper? I threw on my clothes and stormed out. I found Chu Feng and Muzu also standing in the courtyard. Both were staring at the room with solemn expressions. Master, could there be some ancient, peerless, fierce demon sealed in this room? Chu Feng asked. Fierce my ass. It's just a piece of annoying scrap metal. I pulled out the key and opened the door. I saw the sword box trembling violently. A blood-red glow shimmered on its surface. A faint, soaring, murderous aura sought to break the seal. A flash of shock crossed Muzu's eyes. Such terrifying sword chi. Master, what kind of sword is actually inside this box? I walked over and unceremoniously kicked the sword box. Be quiet. Will you let people sleep in the middle of the night? Keep acting up, and I'll melt you down into a hoe tomorrow. The sword box seemed to understand my words. After a few flashes of red light, it actually quieted down. Only that murderous aura still lingered in the room, refusing to dissipate for a long time. Chu Feng and Muzu watched in stunned silence. A dignified ancient fierce sword, was actually subdued by one kick from Master. Just how unfathomable has Master's cultivation level reached? I yawned and locked the door. Stop staring. Go back to sleep. You have to wake up early for work tomorrow. The two bowed respectfully and withdrew. Their eyes were filled with fanatical admiration for me. The following few days passed peacefully. Under my guidance, Chu Feng and Mu Zhu forged iron and chopped wood. Yet their cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. Chu Feng's Nirvana Thunder body became increasingly refined. As the hammer struck, purple electric sparks burst from the furnace. Mu Zhu's nine-turn Nirvana Sword Bone also began to take shape. Although she was still using that broken axe to chop wood, every swing faintly carried a sword intent that could tear through space. Every day, Su Yao used various top-grade spiritual herbs in creative ways to cook for us. Things like Millennium Blood, Ginseng Stewed Ribs, or 10,000-year Snow Lotus Porridge. They practically nourished our bodies until we became like monsters. Finally, the day of the Tianxuan Sect's recruitment ceremony arrived. The entire town was packed shoulder to shoulder. Young talents and rogue cultivators from all over were everywhere. Everyone wanted to secure a good future within the world's #1 sect. I took my 3 disciples and pushed a broken wooden cart through the market, strolling around. The cart was loaded with the farm tools and iron pots we had forged these past few days. Ostensibly, we were here to sell goods, but in reality, we were just joining the fun and buying some iron ore. Master, the Tianxuan Sect's display is truly grand, Chu Feng remarked, looking at the massive white jade plaza outside the sect's mountain gate. What use is grandeur? It's just filled with a bunch of hypocritical pretenders, Mu Zhu said coldly. She had never had a good impression of these prestigious righteous sects. I leaned against the cart, chewing on a piece of grass. Ignore them. We'll just sell our iron pots. 5 low-grade spirit stones per turn. No bargaining. 5 low-grade spirit stones per piece. No bargaining. Just as we set up our stall and were ready to open, a discordant voice drifted over. Where did this bumpkin come from, daring to set up a street stall at the gate of the Tianxuan sect, selling this kind of junk? We looked up. Several youths dressed in the robes of Tianxuan sect inner disciples were walking over arrogantly. The leader was exactly the male cultivator, who was used as a pawn by Lang Kinkyu in the dark forest that day. I didn't expect this brat to be so lucky, to actually survive that crimson gold thunder bear. But seeing the way he limps, he must have suffered a serious injury. Chu Feng recognized him at a glance. His gaze instantly turned cold. Oh, isn't this senior brother Zhao, who ran faster than a rabbit that day? Why are you barking out here with a crippled leg? Senior brother Zhao was stunned for a moment upon seeing Chu Feng. Then his face filled with malice. Great. So it was you despicable and shameless rogue cultivator. That day, you not only stole the mystic-grade spirit fruit, but also almost caused me to be killed by the bear. Since you dare to come to our Tianxuan sect's territory today, don't expect to leave alive. The disciples behind him immediately drew their longswords, surrounding us completely. Seeing this, the people around stepped aside, fearing they would be dragged into the trouble. I didn't even spare them a glance, continuing to fiddle with my iron pot. Want to buy a pot? Continuing to fiddle with my iron pot. Want to buy a pot? If not, don't block my business. Old man, you're courting death. A disciple swung his sword down toward my stall, attempting to split my iron pot in half. I sat on my small stool without moving it. Chu Feng sneered and directly reached out to catch the descending sword. With a crisp snap, the refined steel sword in the disciple's hand was forcibly snapped by Chu Feng's bare hand. What? The disciple retreated 2 steps in terror. Chu Feng brushed the iron filings off his hand. You dare show off this scrap metal in front of my master? Senior brother Zhao's eyes nearly popped out, for he had seen Chu Feng's terrifying strength in the forest with his own eyes, knowing they were no match for him. He gritted his teeth viciously. Just you wait. Don't you dare run. After saying that, he led the disciples and scurried back to the sect gate. Mu Zhu frowned. Master, we've offended the people of the Tianxuan sect. I'm afraid there will be trouble. I yawned. Trouble? Lin Fan, fear nothing more than trouble in this life. I'll keep my stall right here today. I want to see who dares to drive me away. Sure enough, not long after, a large group of Tianxuan sect disciples marched out from the sect gate. Leading them was a white-haired old man, emitting the terrifying pressure of the nascent soul stay. He was actually an outer sect elder of the Tianxuan sect, and following the elder, besides senior brother Zhao, was another familiar figure, dressed in a red dress, cold and proud. It was Leng Qinkyu. When Chu Feng saw Leng Qinkyu, a flash of killing intent crossed his eyes. Master, this is the woman who plotted against me in the forest that day. I narrowed my eyes. Oh, so it's an old acquaintance. Leng Qinkyu saw us as well. Her gaze swept over me, a hint of contempt flashing in her eyes. Then she stared intently at Chu Feng. Boy, I let you escape that day, since you've walked right into my trap today. Hand over the 9-colored illusionary essence fruit, I said lazily while sitting on my stool. The fruit was long ago stewed into soup and drunk. If you want some, there are still some residues in my disciple's belly. Do you want them? As soon as these words were spoken, the onlookers all gasped in shock. Is this mortal blacksmith crazy? How dare he speak like this to the Tianxuan sect elder? And the 9 nether mysterious maidens' reincarnation. Leng Qinkyu's face turned livid. Audacious rogue, to actually waste such a treasure. How precious is that 9-colored illusionary essence fruit? And you actually used it to make soup. Wasting a treasure, I sneered. Things my disciple risked his life to seize can be eaten however he wants. None of your damn business, that outer sect elder shouted angrily. What an arrogant mortal. Today this old man shall execute heavens, and teach you arrogant fools a lesson. As he spoke, he raised his hand and struck. A massive spiritual hand seal appeared out of thin air. With an overwhelming force, it slammed toward our stall down. If this strike landed squarely, let alone us living people, even the surrounding ground would be smashed into a huge crater. Chu Feng shouted and prepared to resist head-on. Muzu also drew that broken axe. Su Yao even grabbed a large iron pot. At this critical moment, I slowly stood up, holding the broken cattail fan used for fanning. Facing that massive spiritual hand seal, I casually waved the fan, just like shooing away a fly. With a thunderous boom, that seemingly world-destroying spiritual hand seal actually vanished into thin air under my single wave. Not only that, a violent gale swept back from the fan outward, sending that outer sect elder flying. The elder spat blood in midair, crashing heavily into the Tianxuan sect's mountain gate archway, smashing that incredibly hard white marble archway into numerous cracks. The entire place fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at me as if I were a monster, a mortal holding a broken cattail fan, fanned away a nascent soul stage powerhouse. Am I freaking dreaming? Leng Qinkyu was also stunned. Her eternally unchanging ice-cold face was now filled with shock and fear. She finally understood why I said that as long as she became my disciple, it would be a huge gain. This was by no means a spiritless mortal. This was definitely a peerless old monster in seclusion. Who on earth are you? Leng Qinkyu asked with a trembling voice. I tucked the fan into my waist, spreading my hands. Didn't I just say? I'm just someone who sells iron pots. 5 low-grade spirit stones per pot. Does your Tianxuan sect want to buy a few for cooking? Leng Qinkyu bit her lip, her eyes flickering. Suddenly, she thought of something. Ignoring the gazes of those around her, she stepped forward and bowed deeply to me. Senior is truly modest about your skills. Qinkyu was blind to your greatness before. I have offended you greatly. I wonder if Senior would be willing to condescend and become a guest elder of our Tianxuan sect. Qinkyu wishes to become Senior's disciple. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd erupted in commotion again. The dignified reincarnation of the 9 nether mysterious maiden, the favored daughter of the Tianxuan sect, actually requested to become a blacksmith's disciple. Looking at her calculating face, I sneered inwardly. This woman has truly mastered the art of sycophancy. Now that she knows I'm powerful, she wants to cling to me. Too late. I curled my lip. Sorry, I take disciples based on chemistry. You're too ugly. You don't meet the aesthetic standards of our blacksmith shop. You, Leng Qinkyu trembled with rage. In all her life, no one had ever dared call her ugly. This was simply a great humiliation. Just as she was about to explode, a long bell chime suddenly echoed from deep within the Tianxuan sect. Then, several incredibly powerful auras soared from the peaks into the sky, heading straight for the mountain gate. Oh no! The supreme elders of the Tianxuan sect have been alerted. The onlookers retreated in terror. I looked up at the dazzling lights in the sky. Tianxuan sect, I complained inwardly. After beating the old ones, even older ones come. Can the tropes of this cultivation world be any more cliché? But that's fine, since things have escalated today. Let's just make a real scene. I turn to Chu Feng and Muzu. Disciples, today Master will teach you the most practical blacksmithing technique. Chu Feng and Muzu replied in unison. Please teach us, Master. I picked up the broken hammer used to smash Liu Ruyan and rested it on my shoulder, facing those arrogant cultivators. Remember one thing, as long as the hammer is hard enough, all those flashy spells are just nonsense. As soon as I finished speaking, those supreme elders had already landed before us. They were all at the soul transformation stage, with an imposing presence. Who dares be insolent at the gate of my Tianxuan sect? The leading great elder glared with wide eyes, looking at the outer sect elder lying on the ground, not knowing if he was dead or alive. His eyes were practically spitting fire. Lang Kinkyu hurried forward, adding fuel to the fire. She recounted what had just happened. Of course, she emphasized how arrogant and overbearing we were, and how we held the Tianxuan sect in utter contempt. After hearing this, the great elder laughed out of extreme rage. A fine, reclusive old monster indeed. I shall see exactly how much weight you carry. After speaking, he formed hand seals. A massive golden giant sword condensed in the sky. The tip of the sword pointed straight at my brow. A full power strike from a soul transformation stage powerhouse. The entire space was locked down. We had absolutely nowhere to escape. Chu Feng and Muzu's faces turned pale, but they still stood firmly in front of me. Chu Feng and Muzu's faces turned pale, but they still stood firmly in front of me. Just at this critical moment, a sudden change occurred. From the direction of the distant town, a soaring blood red sword light suddenly erupted. That sword light was incomparably sharp, as if it wanted to split heaven and earth in two, accompanied by a sword chime that shattered the firmament. A bronze-colored longsword carrying overwhelming malevolence shot forth like a meteor, blocking directly in front of us. The blade was covered in ancient and mysterious runes, emitting a terrifying aura that made the soul tremble. It was the ancient, ominous sword from my storage room. It had actually broken its own seal and rushed out. That golden giant sword was like paper before this ominous sword. As if it were made of paper, it was instantly shredded into pieces by the blood-colored sword chi. The great elder let out a muffled groan. His face became as pale as paper. His eyes were filled with unbelievable terror. This is the legendary heaven-slaying blood sword. It has actually reappeared in the mortal world. The blood sword circled once in midair, as if it were searching for something. Finally, it suddenly dove down and plunged straight into the ground by Muzu's feet. The blade emitted a cheerful humming sound, as if it were trying to please its master. The entire scene fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was stunned. This ancient, ominous sword, rumored to be able to destroy the world, actually took a little firewood chopping girl as its master. Muzu was also bewildered. She stared blankly at the blood sword by her feet, emitting terrifying malevolence. At the blood sword, her mind went completely blank. I, on the other hand, was amused. No wonder this broken sword wailed every midnight. It turns out it took a fancy to Muzu's Nirvana 9-turn sword bone. I'll admit it has some taste, just as everyone was shocked by this sudden turn of events. At that moment, high above the distant horizon, a massive black rift suddenly tore open. A sky-blocking giant eye slowly opened from the rift. A cold, ruthless gaze swept across the land, finally settling on the blood sword and Muzu. A voice so grand and majestic that one couldn't help but want to kneel boomed within everyone's minds. The heaven-slaying sword has appeared. All realms shall be destroyed. We, the divine venerables of the higher realm, will never allow such an ominous object to exist. This aura was simply too terrifying. Even the soul transformation stage grand elders were pressed down flat on the ground, unable to move. Lang Kinkyu was so frightened she turned pale. The entire peak of the Tianxuan sect was shaking violently, as if the apocalypse had arrived. Chu Feng gritted his teeth hard. Although the bones in his body were creaking, he still kept his back straight to protect Muzu. Muzu gripped the blood sword, although her face was pale, but her eyes burned with an indomitable will to fight. I looked at that giant eye in the sky playing tricks, and picked my ear with extreme impatience. You big eyeball up there, you're too noisy. My disciple just got a new toy. What are you rambling about over there? If you don't shut up, I'll go up there, gouge out your eyeball, and use it as bubblegum tusk. As I spoke, the broken iron hammer in my hand slowly emitted an extremely faint, yet space-stagnating black glow. It seemed a battle capable of overturning the entire cultivation world was about to break out between my blacksmith shop squad and the higher realm Divine Venerable. Erupt. And I just felt that today's dinner might be delayed, which made me very unhappy. The giant eye in the sky was clearly enraged by my boastful words. Enraged. A purple lightning punishment as thick as a water bucket shot straight down from the rift, striking down, carrying the power to destroy everything, heading straight for my forehead. The cultivators below wailed in terror, scrambling and crawling to escape into the distance. The great elder closed his eyes in despair. Under the divine punishment of the higher realm, no one can survive. The entire Tianxuan sect will be buried with it. Behind me, Chu Feng and Muzu's eyes were bloodshot, wanting to rush forward to block the lightning for me. I shouted a reprimand without looking back. All of you stay put and behave. Watch how your master smiths. I bent my legs slightly, put power into my waist, grabbed that unremarkable broken iron hammer in my hand, and swung it hard at the world-destroying purple lightning, falling from above right into it. There was no earth-shattering explosion, nor were there any flashy magical lights, only a dull, jarring impact sound that set teeth on edge. In that instant, everyone witnessed a scene they would never forget. That purple lightning, capable of piercing the earth, actually became like a fragile glass pillar, smashed by my hammer into countless tiny bolts of lightning fragments, vanishing without a trace in midair. The giant eye suddenly shrank, as if it had seen something utterly terrifying. Before it could even react, I took a step forward. My body soared into the sky like a cannonball. The hammer in my hand followed the path carved by the lightning, and smashed violently into the rift in the sky. This single strike carried all the resentment accumulated from over 1,000 days of fury. Rumbles. It felt as if the entire firmament was smashed through by this blow. A piercing, agonizing scream echoed from the depths of the rift. That haughty giant eye exploded into a cloud of golden blood, showering down like rain upon the square of the Tianxuan Sect. The rift closed rapidly amidst violent tremors. The sky returned to its tranquility, as if the apocalyptic scene just now was merely an illusion. I drifted lightly back to the ground, brushed the dust off my hands. Some divine venerable of the upper realm couldn't even withstand one blow from my hammer, yet dared to come down here and show off. The square fell into a dead silence. Even the wind stopped blowing. Everyone looked at me as if they were seeing a god. The great elder's legs gave way. He fell to his knees with a thud. The other disciples of the Tianxuan sect followed suit, kneeling in unison. In the face of such absolute power, sect dignity was nothing but a joke. The great elder trembled all over. Trembling violently, the great elder trembled all over. Cold sweat soaked through his Taoist robes. Senior, your divine power is peerless. The Tianxuan sect wishes to honor you as the supreme guest elder. At your complete disposal, without any hesitation, I casually tossed the hammer into the cart, pushed the cart, and called to my 3 disciples. Let's go, time for dinner at home. I wouldn't come back to this dump, even if I were invited. As I passed by Leng Qinkyu, she kept her head bowed low, not even daring to breathe loudly, fearing I might smash her with a single slap. I couldn't be bothered with her, and led my disciples out of the Tianxuan sect with great swagger. Returning to the blacksmith shop, Returning to the blacksmith shop, Su Yao had already prepared dinner. She had somehow gotten a wild chicken that looked like a phoenix, stewing it until the fragrance filled the entire courtyard. During dinner that evening, Muzu kept clutching the heaven-slaying blood sword, unable to let it go. Chu Feng, on the other hand, was dancing with excitement, mimicking my heroic posture, as I smashed the lightning from the sky for Su Yao. Master, that strike of yours was so cool. Please teach me, Chu Feng said, his eyes sparkling. I picked up a piece of chicken. When you can forge 10,000 perfect iron nails in one go, then I will teach you. Chu Feng's face immediately fell, but his eyes were full of determination. Muzu looked at me. Her eyes held not only awe, but also a deep reliance. She knew that if it weren't for me, she would likely still be hunted down, and this ancient malevolent sword would never have accepted her as its master. After eating and drinking my fill, I lay on the rocking chair, gazing at the stars, planning my next move in my mind. Although the system had given me many good things, only a tiny bit of my cultivation seal had been unlocked. To unlock it completely, I must continue taking disciples. It seems I must continue living the life of a blacksmith. Just then, the system's voice rang out in my head once more. Ding! Detected top-grade refining materials in an ancient ruin, appearing 1,000 miles away. It is suggested that the host go and obtain them. My eyes lit up. Top-grade materials. Now those are great things for smithing. Early the next morning, I gathered my disciples, packed our bags, and prepared to set out. "Master, where are we going?" Chu Feng asked while carrying an iron pot on his back. "To mine," with a wave of my hand. "I'll take you to see some real treasures." The ancient ruins are located in a swamp shrouded in mist year-round. At its center, this place is fraught with danger, filled with powerful poisonous insects and fierce beasts. Normally, even Golden Core stage cultivators dare not enter lightly. Our party of 4 walked through the muddy swamp. Su Yao was perched on Chu Feng's shoulders, eating a candied hawthorn with great relish. Mu Zu, carrying the heaven-slaying blood sword, was responsible for clearing the way. Those blind demonic beasts were shredded by sword chi before they could even approach, turned into minced meat. Suddenly, the sound of a fierce fight came from the mist ahead, and someone's desperate cries for help. As we drew closer, we saw a group of disciples in Tianxuan Sect attire being besieged by a dozen poisonous crocodiles covered in bone spikes. The leader was none other than Leng Qinkyu. She was covered in blood at this moment, her spiritual power almost exhausted, and the blade of her sword was chipped. She was on the verge of perishing in the crocodiles' mouths. What a small world, enemies meeting again. On the verge of perishing in the crocodiles' mouths. What a small world, enemies meeting again. Chu Feng chuckled with schadenfreude. I stroked my chin while watching this scene. It wasn't that my saintess heart was acting up, but mainly because the skins of those poison crocodiles looked quite sturdy. They should make good aprons for blacksmithing. Chu Feng, go get a few crocodile skins, I instructed casually. Chu Feng chuckled. Right away, master. He suddenly charged into the crocodile swarm, without even using lightning arts, simply crouching down and covering his head. I am a little mushroom. The attacks of the poison crocodiles hit the mushroom shield, and the massive recoil left them completely dazed and confused. Mu Zu took the opportunity to draw the heaven-slaying blood sword. With a swift strike, a dozen poison crocodiles instantly became headless corpses. The whole process took less than the time it takes for half a stick of incense to burn. Leng Qinkyu and the remaining Tianxuan Sect disciples were stunned. The monsters they had fought desperately and failed to defeat were as easy to slice as vegetables in the hands of these two. Leng Qinkyu looked at me blankly, her expression incredibly complex. There was humiliation, shock, and more than anything, an irrepressible longing. She stumbled toward me and fell to her knees with a thud. "Thank you, Senior, for saving my life. Qinkyu has no way to repay you, but I am willing to serve you as a beast of burden." I waved my hand. "Don't flatter yourself. I just took a fancy to these crocodile skins. It was just a convenience." Leng Qinkyu gritted her teeth. "Senior, I know I was blind before, but I am the reincarnation of the Nine, Nether Mysterious Maiden. As long as you are willing to take me in, I will definitely be of help to you." I rolled my eyes. Is being the reincarnation of the Nine, Nether Mysterious Maiden that rare? My eldest disciple can blow up a mountain with one punch. My second disciple's lightning arts grant immunity to physical attacks. And my third disciple wields an ancient malevolent sword. Other than throwing tantrums, what else can you do? Leng Qinkyu was left speechless by my retort, her eyes reddening. As a proud daughter of heaven, when had she ever suffered such a grievance? But she knew that what I said was the truth. In this blacksmith shop, the talent she took pride in was simply insignificant. I ignored her further, told Chu Feng to skin the crocodiles, and continued deeper into the ruins. Leng Qinkyu gritted her teeth and led the others to follow us from a distance. It seemed she was determined to cling to us. I couldn't be bothered with her, as long as she didn't get in the way. Deep in the ruins was a massive underground palace, eerie and terrifying inside, filled with crumbling walls and bleached white bones. The top-grade material mentioned by the system was at the deepest part of the palace. We fought our way through. Chu Feng's mushroom shield and Mu Zu's back off combined seamlessly. It was practically a bulldozer-style approach. Finally, we reached the end of the palace. There were no piles of gold and silver treasures here, nor any peerless cultivation techniques. In the center of the hall was only a huge bronze altar. On the altar sat an ancient coffin covered in verdigris. The material mentioned by the system was actually the bronze coffin itself. Just as I was wondering how to haul this thing back, a bone-chilling sound suddenly came from the coffin. A scratching sound, as if something wanted to crawl out from inside. Chu Feng and Mu Zu immediately gripped their weapons, as if facing a great enemy. Leng Qinkyu and the others following behind were so scared they kept retreating. Right then, Su Yao suddenly broke free from Chu Feng's hand and ran toward the coffin with her short little legs. Yao Yao, come back quickly, it's dangerous, Chu Feng shouted anxiously, but I reached out to stop him because I noticed Su Yao's eyes had become extremely vacant, as if she were being called by something. Su Yao walked to the coffin. She reached out her chubby little hand and gently pressed it onto the bronze lid covered in formations. With a crack, that seal, which even a soul transformation stage expert couldn't shake, actually shattered piece by piece under Su Yao's hand. The coffin lid slowly slid off. An ancient and weathered aura rushed towards us. We peered inside. There was no corpse inside, only a jade pendant emitting a soft glow, and a piece of animal hide scroll filled with ancient text. What was even more eerie was a long sigh emanating from the coffin. That voice was exactly like Su Yao's usual voice, only it carried a hint of weariness from endless ages. Where on earth did this ruin come from? What shocking secret is hidden in Su Yao's true origin secret? And what kind of turmoil will that jade pendant bring to the blacksmith shop? I rubbed my chin, looking at Su Yao, who was gradually regaining clarity. A meaningful smile curled on the corner of my lips. It seems this peaceful blacksmithing life is bound to become more and more lively. Just as Su Yao's chubby little hand touched that soft, glowing jade pendant, the entire underground palace shook violently. The jade pendant actually turned into a stream of light and entered Su Yao's brow. The little girl blinked her big eyes. She touched her forehead, seeming to feel nothing at all. But my eye of truth saw it clearly. The spiritual power within Su Yao was like a volcano that had slept for millions of years, suddenly showing signs of revival. That weathered sigh from before completely disappeared, replaced by an ancient pressure that made one want to bow down and worship. However, this pressure lasted for less than a second. Then Su Yao turned around and grinned silly at me. Brother Fan, I'm hungry. I want roasted sweet potatoes. I let out a long sigh of relief, regardless of what earth-shaking figure she was in her past life. Now she is just the eldest apprentice in my Lin Fan's blacksmith shop, who only knows how to eat. I stepped forward and rubbed her little head. I'll roast some for you when we get home. Then my gaze fell upon that huge bronze coffin. This thing is the top-grade refining material the system mentioned. I was worrying about how to get it back. The system in my mind, which had been playing dead, dinged again. Congratulations, host, for obtaining the ancient divine object. Creation bronze coffin. It has been automatically converted into a god-level blacksmithing anvil for the host. As soon as the words fell, that huge bronze coffin, amidst a burst of blinding light, quickly shrank, finally becoming a square, simple and heavy bronze blacksmithing anvil, landing steadily at my feet. It still bore the mottled marks of time. I nodded with satisfaction, although the skills this system usually gives are a bit weird. It's quite thoughtful when it comes to giving gifts. Chu Feng and Muzu's jaws almost dropped. Such a huge, mysterious coffin, a seal that even a soul transformation stage expert couldn't unlock, actually became a padding board for blacksmithing. Master this? This is simply seizing the creation of heaven and earth. Chu Feng was so excited he was incoherent. I stuffed that animal hide scroll, filled with ancient text, into my chest. I picked up the bronze anvil. The weight was just right. Let's go head back home. I'll make you crocodile skin aprons when we return. Lang Kinkyu stood with those few remaining disciples of the Tianxuan sect in the corner, watching us scavenge the treasures of the ancient ruins with such fluid ease, not even daring to breathe loudly. Until we had walked far away, she finally gritted her teeth. A flash of determination crossed her eyes. Follow them, even if I have to sweep the floor at the blacksmith shop. I must stay by that senior's side. Returning to the blacksmith shop in the small town, life seemed to return to peace once again. I placed the creation bronze anvil in the center of the yard. The spiritual energy of the entire yard instantly became more than 10 times denser. Even the crooked tree near the wall that was almost dead sprouted new buds overnight and bloomed a few spiritual small white flowers. Every day, Chu Feng worked shirtless at this bronze anvil. The sweat was evaporated by that ancient aura as soon as it flowed down. His nirvana lightning body actually became stronger by several levels without him noticing. Every time the hammer struck, it carried faint thunder and ancient Sanskrit chants. The neighbors in town thought our blacksmith shop had changed professions to perform religious rituals. I threw the poisonous crocodile skins I brought back to Su Yao and let her cut them randomly with scissors. She sewed a few hideous aprons. Chu Feng and Muzu each got one. Muzu looked at the crooked crocodile skin apron in her hand with loose threads. A rare hint of hesitation appeared on her cold face, but she still obediently put it on. As a result, the moment she put it on, the heaven-slaying blood soared within her body, let out an excited sword hum. This is no mere ragged apron. After this poisonous crocodile skin was sewn, by Su Yao's small hands imbued with the power of creation, it actually became a top-grade inner armor capable of withstanding a full-strength blow from a soul transformation stage expert. Muzu felt the terrifying defensive power emanating from the apron, and her eyes grew red again. Master is truly too good to us. Even a casually made apron is such a peerless treasure. I lay on the rocking chair, waving a palm leaf fan, watching them work in those hideously ugly aprons, feeling delighted inside. Peerless treasure, my foot. I simply thought that since sparks fly everywhere during blacksmithing, it's easy to burn through clothes. As for outside the door, there was now a beautiful sight to behold. The dignified reincarnation of the nine, nether mysterious maiden. The pride of the Tianxuan sect, Leng Kinkyu, had actually set up a ragged straw hut opposite our blacksmith shop. Every day before dawn, she would wake up to help sweep the street in front of us, and even took the initiative to handle the trash. The young men in town wandered the streets every day, distracted and love-struck, just to catch a glimpse of this once aloof fairy holding a large broom and sweeping the ground. Every time Chu Feng went out to dump the furnace slag, he would intentionally toss the furnace ash high into the air, making Leng Kinkyu cough uncontrollably. Junior sister, look at that crazy woman. She still hasn't given up. Chu Feng whispered to Muzu, who was chopping wood while winking. Muzu didn't even glance outside. The ragged axe in her hand, carrying a space-rending sword intent, chopped into a piece of black iron wood. Don't get distracted, Master said. If we don't finish chopping this batch of wood today, we don't get to eat. Leng Kinkyu heard this clearly from outside, her knuckles whitening as she gripped the broom. But she forced herself to endure it, because she discovered that, since she started sweeping in front of the blacksmith shop, by absorbing the leftover spiritual energy leaking from the courtyard every day, her stagnant cultivation had actually begun to move. This made her even more determined to cling to me as her support. Days passed by like this. I signed in every day to get some god-grade materials, drank tea and slept. The seal on my cultivation was slowly unlocking, like a snail bit by bit. I reckoned that if I slapped a Mahayana stage expert now, it wouldn't be a problem, but I was still immortal, the kind without a single ripple of spiritual energy. One day at noon, the sunlight was perfect. I had just finished the big plate of chicken made by Su Yao and was picking my teeth when dark clouds suddenly filled the sky. An extremely oppressive bloody aura instantly enveloped the entire town. The once bustling streets instantly became dead silent, and even the wind carried a nauseating smell of rust. Chu Feng's blacksmithing movements suddenly froze. He stared intently at the sky, his grip leaving deep finger marks on the hammer in his hand, his eyes instantly turning crimson as violent purple lightning erupted uncontrollably from his body. Master, it's them. Chu Feng's voice was as hoarse as if it had been rubbed against sandpaper, filled with bone-deep hatred. I sat up straight, spat out the toothpick in my mouth. Who is it? The Blood Fiend sect, who slaughtered my entire Chu family. Chu Feng gnashed his teeth, his body trembling violently from extreme rage. I raised an eyebrow. So it's these bastards. Last time they sent 2 lackeys with scimitars to their deaths, and this time they've come out in full force. The blood-colored clouds in the sky slowly descended, and hundreds of cultivators in blood-red robes riding flying swords appeared above the town. Leading them was a withered-faced old man, radiating the terrifying pressure of the void refinement stage. The blood aura around him even condensed into tangible skulls wailing in midair. Blood Fiend Sect Master Zhu Wuya. He looked down at the town below, his voice as grating as a broken gong. Little remnant of the Chu family, this seat knows you are hiding here. Hand over that item on your person, and this seat may leave you whole. Otherwise, every living thing in this town today shall be buried with you. The townspeople, terrified, hid in their houses, trembling. Leng Kinkyu stood in the street holding her broom, her face pale. The Blood Fiend Sect was the most notorious demonic sect within 10,000 miles, acting with extreme cruelty. Even the Tianxuan sect was unwilling to provoke them easily. She turned to look at the blacksmith shop, only to find the courtyard unusually calm. I stood up, stretched, walked over to Chu Feng, and patted his shoulder. "My disciple, the enemy is already at our doorstep. Why has your hammer stopped?" Chu Feng whipped his head around to look at me. His eyes were bloodshot. Chu Feng suddenly turned his head to look at me. His eyes were bloodshot. Tears welled up in them. "Master, they outnumber us, and there is a void refinement powerhouse. This disciple's life is worthless, and not a loss to lose. But I cannot implicate Master and my junior sisters." I slapped the back of his head. "Cut the crap. A disciple of mine, Lin Fan, even if you poke a hole in the sky, I will be the one to cover for you, since the enemies have come to our door today. Then let's settle this debt once and for all. Go. Use the blacksmithing technique I taught you, and crush their bones inch by inch." Chu Feng was stunned. Then he forced back the tears that were about to fall then. He bowed heavily to me. This disciple obeys. He lifted that blacksmith hammer weighing hundreds of pounds and strode out of the courtyard, facing alone in the air those hundreds of ferocious demon cultivators. Zhu Wuya looked at the hammer in Chu Feng's hand and let out a burst of arrogant laughter. "Halotted, remnant of the Chu family, have you gone insane, thinking you can seek revenge on this seat with a broken blacksmith hammer? Attack! Chop him into minced meat." A dozen Foundation establishment and Golden Core disciples of the Blood Shura sect dove down with sinister smiles. Their blood-colored magic treasures crashed down upon Chu Feng like a tide. Chu Feng did not retreat, but advanced. His gaze was cold as a blade. Nirvana Thunder Body fully activated. Purple lightning coiled around him, and the iron hammer. His legs suddenly exerted force, soaring into the sky like a cannonball. First strike, iron forging style. With a thunderous boom, the three demon cultivators at the front didn't even have time to let out a scream before being smashed directly by this strike of destructive thunder into a blood mist. Even their souls were scattered by the purple lightning. This wasn't blacksmithing. This was clearly crushing lives. The demon cultivators behind were terrified out of their wits, just as they wanted to retreat. Chu Feng gave them no chance at all. The iron hammer in his hand swung with airtight precision. With every strike, a demon cultivator surely fell. A rain of blood fell upon the streets of the town. Chu Feng was like a god of slaughter bathed in lightning. This scene left Zhu Wuya stunned. When this kid escaped back then, he was clearly a waste who hadn't even reached the chi condensation stage. In just a few short months, how could he possess such terrifying strength? "You wastes!" Elders formed the Blood Shura array. Zhu Wuya roared. Four nascent soul elders immediately dispersed around Chu Feng, waving the soul-summoning banners in their hands. Countless fierce ghosts surged from the banners, forming a giant blood-colored prison that trapped Chu Feng inside. Blood-colored flames burned wildly within the prison, seeking to refine Chu Feng. Those flames were extremely corrosive. Even the space was burned into distortion. Chu Feng felt a searing pain on his skin. He knew his current cultivation couldn't withstand four nascent soul stage arrays. But he wasn't panicked at all. He skillfully threw the iron hammer to the ground. With a swish, he crouched in midair with his hands over his head and yelled at the top of his lungs, "I am a little mushroom." With a hum, a strange ripple spread out. The blood-colored flames and ghosts that were lunging at Chu Feng acted as if they were blind, actually curving around his body and then crashing violently into the array's light screen opposite him. The four elders only felt a tightness in their chests. Their own attacks were actually fully reflected back onto themselves, and the power seemed to have grown even stronger. What kind of ghostly spell is this? The elders screamed in terror, desperately trying to withdraw their magic power. But it was already too late. The interior of the array became a complete mess. Chu Feng just crouched in the very center, as steady as a real mushroom, while those ghosts and flames ran wildly around him. Finally, the array could not withstand the violent internal force. and exploded with a roar. The four nascent soul elders spat out blood, falling from the air like kites with broken strings. Chu Feng took the opportunity to stand up, catching the falling iron hammer, and a power swing, and another swift strike. Four purple lightning bolts turned into sharp blades, directly severing the heads of the four elders. Zhu Wuya completely lost it. He, the dignified leader of the Blood Fiend sect, was actually beaten to pulp by a junior with a blacksmith hammer. Little cutie, I want to become sworn brothers with you. Zhu Wuya has personally taken action. The terrifying pressure of the void refinement stage is like Mount Tai pressing down. The houses of the entire town are trembling. A giant blood-colored long blade condenses in his hand. With a piercing whistle that tears through space, he slashes down toward Chu Feng's head. This strike locks onto all of Chu Feng's aura. There is no way to avoid it. Just as Chu Feng was preparing to crouch and pretend to be a mushroom again, a cold, clear shout comes from the blacksmith shop. Second senior brother stepped back. Mu Zhu, wearing that ugly crocodile skin apron, carrying the bronze-colored heaven-slaying blood sword on her back, steps out of the courtyard. She did not draw her sword. Instead, she took a deep breath, closed her eyes. Her hands were placed unnaturally on her hips. She took a step forward with her left foot. Her face was as red as a ripe apple, facing that world-destroying strike. She gritted her teeth and shouted 3 times, "Back, back, back." An indescribable, weird power from Mu Zhu erupted from her body. There were no magnificent lights or shadows, nor was there a deafening roar, only to see the aggressive Zhu Wuya, along with the giant blood-colored long blade in his hand, as if someone had pressed the fast rewind button in an extremely comical and irresistible manner. He was sent flying backward, not only him, but also the remaining Blood Fiend sect disciples in midair. All were swept away by this invisible force. With a whoosh, they flew out of the town, flew over the mountain peaks, finally becoming a group of small black dots on the horizon. Disappearing from sight, they flew a full 10 miles away. Chu Feng stood in place, carrying his hammer, looking at the empty sky. His mouth twitched uncontrollably. Junior sister, no matter how many times I see this human cannon move, it's just absurd. Mu Zhu covered her face and hurried back into the courtyard. It's too embarrassing. It felt worse than being killed. The townspeople cautiously opened their windows, looking at the cloudless sky. All tacitly acted as if nothing had happened, and continued doing what they were doing. After all, living next to this blacksmith shop for so long, everyone's nerves had become exceptionally thick, let alone a group of demonic cultivators flying away. Even if an immortal fell from the sky, they would only think the blacksmith shop was making some new invention. Meanwhile, on a barren mountain 10 miles away, Zhu Wuya was caught in a large tree, coughing up blood in rage. What kind of wicked art is this? He, a dignified void refinement powerhouse, was actually sent flying inexplicably, without even touching the opponent, blown away. If this news gets out, where would the Blood Fiend sect hide its face? The whole sect hear my order. Sacrifice to the Blood Demon Array. Level that town completely to the ground for me. Zhu Wuya fell completely into madness. He bit the tip of his tongue. Essence blood sprayed onto a black jade talisman. Those dazed demonic cultivators also cut their wrists. Blood gathered in midair. A blood-colored magic array that blocked the sun slowly formed. In the courtyard of the blacksmith shop, I was eating melon seeds. Suddenly felt the light dimming. I looked up. A colossal blood-colored phantom condensed in the sky 10 miles away. That phantom had 3 heads and 6 arms. Its whole body emitted a desperate aura of death. That pressure had even surpassed the void refinement stage, reaching the threshold of the Mahayana stage. Chu Feng and Mu Zhu looked solemn. They knew that a monster of this level was beyond their ability to handle. Master, that is the Blood Fiend, Sect's guardian deity demon. Chu Feng gripped the hammer tightly, preparing to fight to the death. I brushed the melon seed shells off my hands and stood up with some impatience. Can't people just rest in the middle of the day, hanging such an ugly thing in the sky? Don't you know it ruins the city's appearance? I walked over to the creation bronze anvil and casually picked up a red-hot piece that hadn't been hammered yet horseshoe. I weighed it in my hand. Then I aimed at the one 10 miles away, roaring at the sky. The blood-colored deity demon. Like throwing a dart, I casually tossed it out the moment that red-hot horseshoe left my hand. It didn't make any earth-shattering sound, It simply traced a plain, parabolic curve through the air. But in the eyes of Zhu Wuya and the others, in that instant, heaven and earth seemed to invert. That tiny horseshoe rapidly expanded in their eyes, with a terrifying power that even the heavenly Tao would shun power, instantly piercing through 10 li of space. With a soft thud, the horseshoe accurately struck the brow center of that giant god-demon. That blood-colored god-demon claimed to be immortal and capable of withstanding Mahayana stage attacks. Couldn't even let out a scream, like a balloon pricked by a needle. It exploded with a bang into a sky full of blood mist. Not only that, the residual power of the horseshoe remained, striking directly into Zhu Wuya's chest. The dignified sect leader of the Blood Fiend sect didn't even leave behind a whole corpse. His soul was completely shattered by this single horseshoe, along with the desolate mountain behind him. It was flattened instantly by this strike, turning into a massive, deep pit. The remaining disciples of the Blood Fiend sect were terrified, falling to their knees one after another. The air was filled with a pungent smell of blood and extreme fear. Meanwhile, inside the blacksmith shop, I clapped my hands and turned to look at Chu Feng. Is your heart at ease now that the debt is paid? Chu Feng stared blankly at the vanished mountain 10 li away, tears finally streaming down his face. He knelt on the ground, kowtowing deeply to me 3 times, and began to wail loudly. The grievances, fear, and hatred of the past 3 years all turned into tears at this moment. Muzu stood to the side, her eyes also turning red. She walked over and gently patted Chu Feng's back. Su Yao also ran over, handing Chu Feng a clean handkerchief. Senior brother, stop crying. Yao Yao will roast some sweet potatoes for you later. I looked at these disciples and felt somewhat emotional. Killing and fighting are too common in the cultivation world. But for those who belong to me, Lin Fan, if anyone dares to touch a single hair, I'll chase them to the 9 nether hells to scatter their ashes. Enough, enough. What does a grown man look like when sobbing? Hurry up and clean the courtyard. We still need to start the furnace for forging later. I waved my hand and lay back down on the rocking chair. Although that throw just now was easy, I found that the cultivation seal on the system panel had loosened significantly again. It seems protecting disciples and resolving karma are the key. At dusk, the streets outside the town returned to peace. Those remaining Blood Fiend disciples had long since scrambled back to their lair, likely never daring to set foot in this town again in their lives. Leng Kinkyu held a broom, silently sweeping the fallen leaves in front of the door. The way she looked at me was no longer just awe, but she completely viewed me as a deity, killing a void refinement expert with a piece of scrap iron. Such strength, even at her peak in her past life, she would have to kneel and call me ancestor. Just as we were preparing for dinner, a chubby little boy suddenly wobbled around the street corner. This chubby boy wore tattered clothes, his face covered in black ash, holding a blackened iron pot in his arms, sniffing his nose as he walked. So fragrant, following the scent, the chubby boy walked to our shop door, his large eyes staring intently at the basin of braised pork in Su Yao's hands, almost flowing down to his heels. I didn't pay much attention at first, but then the dormant system in my mind suddenly emitted a piercing alarm. Ding! Top-tier disciple target detected. Possessor of the special heaven-burning creation physique. Host, please secure this target at all costs. I almost choked on the tea I had just sipped, staring wide-eyed at the beggar at the door who was round like a ball. Just this, heaven-burning creation physique. System, is your detector broken? Seeing us all looking at him, the chubby boy scratched his head shyly, revealing a simple, honest smile. Great lords, my name is Zhu Dacheng. I'm a cook, fleeing from a famine. I'm too hungry to walk any further. Could you give me something to eat? Just as I was hesitating on how to trick him into apprentice, the animal skin scroll brought back from the ancient ruins suddenly flew out on its own, emitting a dazzling golden light in midair. The golden light turned into countless ancient runes, which actually began to whirl around the broken black pot, spinning around. Zhu Dacheng was startled. His hand loosened. The black pot fell to the ground, making a dull metallic clanging sound. I just picked up this pot on the road. It has nothing to do with me. Terrified, he quickly hid backward. I walked over and picked up the black pot. The moment I touched it, an extremely terrifying heat almost burned my hand into blisters. This is definitely no ordinary iron pot. Combining it with the content of that animal skin scroll, I suddenly realized something. I turned my head, looking at Zhu Dacheng, who was still swallowing saliva, showing a kind smile comparable to the big bad wolf as grandma. Dacheng, do you want to eat braised pork every day? Zhu Dacheng nodded frantically without hesitation. I want it so much I dream about it. I pointed to the black pot. As long as you take me as your master, this pot will be given to you as a frying pan. From now on, you will be responsible for the meals at our blacksmith shop. What do you think? Zhu Dacheng was stunned for a moment, looking at me as if I were a great philanthropist. He fell to his knees with a thud. Master above, please accept your disciple's bow. From this day forward, I, Zhu Dacheng, will cook for Master for the rest of my life. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully recruiting a disciple. Cultivation restrictions have been significantly lifted. Reward, absolute defense, advanced skill, all things reflection, and unlock Zhu Dacheng's special physique. Burning heaven creation body. A set of god-level cookware is gifted. I listened to the system's notification with satisfaction, just as I was about to let Su Yao take the new disciple to wash his face. A terrifying tearing sound suddenly came from the sky. We looked up simultaneously, only to see the originally clear night sky being forcibly torn open by great magic into a giant rift. In that rift flickered blinding lightning, and storms enough to destroy the world. A voice full of endless majesty and rage came from the rift's depths. Audacious mortal ants, how dare you destroy this venerable one's avatar eye? Today, this venerable one shall descend heavenly soldiers and generals to erase you along with this world, completely from the void. That pressure was countless times stronger than Zhu Wuya's, by tens of thousands of times. Even the air was frozen. The houses of the entire town began to collapse. Huge fissures opened in the ground. Chu Feng, Muzu, and Su Yao instantly felt a great enemy approaching. Even the newly apprenticed Zhu Dacheng hugged the black pot tightly. Ling Kinkyu outside, the door was pressed flat to the ground, by this pressure unable to move. A true immortal from the upper realm has descended. I sighed, looking at the dense army of the immortal realm in the sky, about to rush out of the rift. I casually threw the glowing animal skin scroll in my hand into the furnace as firewood. Turning to look at my 4 eccentric disciples, it seems tonight's braised pork needs some heavenly soldiers and generals as side dishes. The giant rift in the sky was like a greedy abyss mouth. Violent void gales tore the town's roofs to pieces. Golden lightning poured down frantically like a waterfall. Dense ranks of heavenly soldiers wore dazzling immortal gold armor. Stepping on auspicious clouds, they emerged from the rift in succession. The spectacle was far more exaggerated than Immortal Emperor's procession, 10,000 times over. The leading true immortal of the upper realm rode a creature spitting samadhi true fire, a jade Killin. In his hand, he held a demon-subduing pestle entwined with heavenly Tao laws. Looking down from on high at our shabby blacksmith shop, mortal ants die. His voice was like 10,000 bronze bells, ringing simultaneously, shaking the entire town's ground violently. The townspeople were originally buying groceries in the street, looking up to see this apocalyptic scene in the sky. The elderly men and women abandoned even their grocery baskets, skillfully fleeing with their heads covered into the cellars. After all, living near the blacksmith shop, in these few months, they had seen more than old monsters who lived for 1,000 years in the cultivation world. The purple lightning all over Chu Feng's body had reached its peak of rage. His hands gripped the 100-pound smithing hammer tightly, his knuckles turning white from the excessive force. Muzu remained silent. The heaven-slaying blood soared on her back, emitted a frenzied humming sound, as if it had smelled an unparalleled delicacy. Su Yao stepped in front of me with her short legs, her 2 chubby little hands clenched into fists, and the newly apprenticed Zhu Dacheng's legs had long gone weak from fear. Hugging the black iron pot, He sat on the ground, shivering. "Master, should we run?" Zhu Dacheng shouted with a sob. I slowly stood up from the rocking chair, brushed the sunflower seed shells off the clothes. "Why are you running? The ingredients have delivered themselves to the door. Dacheng, today is your first day as my apprentice. I'm leaving this apprenticeship banquet to you." Zhu Dacheng widened his already small eyes. His face screamed, "You've got to be kidding me. Those people up in the sky are immortals." I walked over and slapped his plump back of the head. "Go. What immortals? In my eyes, they're all just flying free-range chickens. Use the incantation I just taught you. Stew that flaming killin' for your master." Although Zhu Dacheng was afraid, he was a born chef. Hearing the words stew meat, the craving for ingredients in his bones actually overcame his fear. He took a deep breath, forcing his trembling legs to steady, and suddenly stood up holding that black pot. In his mind, the bloodline of the heaven-burning creation, physique completely awakened at this moment. The god of cookery set granted by the system emitted a dark gold light. Following the eerie incantation I taught him, he held the pot with his left hand and slammed the bottom with his right, and roared with his raspy voice, "Heat the pot in oil." With a loud boom, that black pot, originally only the size of a wash basin, instantly expanded wildly. In the blink of an eye, it became a giant iron pot that blocked the sun, several times larger than the rift in the sky. Inside the pot burned the 9 netherworld karma extinction of the heaven-burning creation physique. The fire wasn't red, but an eerie dark purple. Even the void sizzled as it was burned. The celestial soldiers and generals in the sky were all stunned. They had seen those using flying swords and immortal treasures, but had never seen anyone use a frying pan as a magic treasure. The true immortal riding the kiln flew into a rage. "Death-seeking lowlife of the lower realm, be reduced to ashes by this venerable one." He suddenly swung the demon-subduing pestle. Tens of thousands of celestial soldiers formed seal simultaneously. Colorful immortal spells like a rainstorm toward the blacksmith shop crashed down. Any single spell could blast a soul transformation stage cultivator into dust. Chu Feng and Mu Zhu were about to act, but I stopped them and told them to watch how your 4th junior brother cooks. By now, Zhu Dacheng had completely entered the state of a chef. His eyes were bloodshot, staring intently at the falling immortal spells. He suddenly swung his right arm and roared another line that even I found embarrassing. High heat to reduce the sauce. That sun-blocking giant iron pot suddenly generated a terrifying, irresistible suction. Those world-destroying immortal spells didn't even hit the ground. They were all swallowed by the iron pot in one gulp. Not only that, the suction even extended to the sky, and even the majestic jade kiln could not escape. Its 4 hooves kicked wildly in the and finally fell into the pot with a wail. More than half of the sky was cleared in an instant. A rich aroma of meat mixed with pure immortal chi from the iron pot wafted out. One whiff made one feel like they were ascending to heaven. The true immortal of the upper realms' eyes nearly popped out. He exhausted his life force to activate his origin immortal power to barely steady his form and avoid being sucked in. Shaking with rage, he spat out a mouthful of golden immortal blood. "Monster, what kind of demonic art is this?" Roaring, he pulled out from his chest something carved with ancient totems, an ancient bronze mirror. Once the ancient mirror appeared, the laws of heaven and earth froze instantly. A beam of light that destroyed everything surged from the mirror's surface, heading straight for the center of Zhu Dacheng's brow. Zhu Dacheng was controlling the giant iron pot and had no time to dodge. The beam of light carried a pressure that erased all souls and was about to pierce through the fat man. I sighed. The new apprentice is still not proficient enough. I, the master, have to handle the chores. I casually picked up a pair of broken iron tongs from the nearby furnace, used for gripping coal. Taking a seemingly casual step forward, I instantly transcended the limitations of space and stood directly in front of Zhu Dacheng. That immortal beam of light, capable of destroying the entire lower realm, crashed hard into me. The system's advanced absolute defense skill, all thing reflection, quietly activated at this moment. There was no earth-shattering explosion, nor a magnificent shield of light and shadow. That immortal beam of light was as if it hit an invisible, invincible divine mirror. Not only did it not cause me a single shred of damage, but it reflected back along the same path, 10 times faster than it came returning. The true immortal had no time to react, and was hit head-on by his own strongest killing move. With a dull thud, the dignified true immortal of the upper realm didn't even have time to leave a final word, and exploded into a cloud of golden blood mist in midair. Even his divine soul was completely erased. The ancient bronze mirror in his hand fell with a clang down. I acted quickly and steadily caught the mirror with my old iron tongs. I weighed it in my hand. The material was decent enough, just right to be used as a dressing mirror for Su Yao. I casually tossed the mirror to Su Yao behind me and turned to look at Zhu Dacheng, who was still stunned. The heat is just right. Hurry up and take the pot off. Otherwise, the meat will be overcooked and get stuck in your teeth. Only then did Zhu Dacheng wake up from his daze and quickly chanted a spell. The giant iron pot shrank rapidly and landed steadily on the bronze anvil in the center of the yard. Golden bubbles were bubbling up in the pot. The aroma was so thick, it almost turned into tangible, auspicious clouds floating above the blacksmith shop. The rats in town could probably become demons instantly upon smelling this. Chu Feng and Muzu gulped their saliva. Even the always cold Muzu couldn't help but lean forward 2 steps. I took a few sets of bowls and chopsticks from the kitchen for them and called everyone to gather around the bronze anvil. Come, come, come. Eat while it's hot. Dacheng's skill is truly beyond words. Much better than what's made in the restaurants outside. The 5 of us, master and disciples, feasted on the pot of immortal meat soup. Outside the door, Leng Kinkyu hid behind a thatched shed. She just secretly inhaled 2 breaths of the aroma, and the cultivation in her body, stagnant for so long, suddenly boomed and broke through the barrier, leaping directly from the foundation establishment stage to the golden core stage. Leng Kinkyu covered her mouth in shock, tears falling patter-patter. A realm she had spent over 100 years cultivating in her previous life, reached today just by smelling someone's cooking. She grit her teeth and plucked up the courage to walk to the blacksmith shop entrance and fell to her knees with a thud. Senior, Kinkyu wants to help you wash the dishes, as long as Kinkyu can stay by your side as a lowly maid servant. Kinkyu would not shrink from 10,000 deaths. I chewed on a piece of Kirin cartilage without even looking up. Washing dishes is fine. Break 1, and 10 years of your lifespan will be deducted. Go to the backyard. Leng Kinkyu felt as if she had been granted a great pardon, kowtowing repeatedly in excitement, walking cautiously into the yard, waiting by the well like a docile little daughter-in-law. That night, spiritual energy ran wild in the blacksmith shop. Chu Feng drank 3 large bowls of immortal soup. His Nirvana Thunder body advanced directly to the 2nd level. The purple lightning across his body turned dark gold. His cultivation soared to the great perfection of the golden core state. Muzu was even more exaggerated. Her 9-turn Nirvana sword bone absorbed the immortal origin. The heaven-slaying blood sword seemed to come alive, merging completely with her soul. She became like an unsheathed, peerless divine weapon, her cultivation pressing right up against the nascent soul state. As for Zhu Dacheng, the fat man cried while eating, saying he had never eaten anything so delicious in his life. His heaven-burning creation body was completely stabilized. Not only did his cultivation increase, but his fat actually became as hard as iron, comparable to a top-grade defensive magical treasure. And as for little Su Yao, after drinking the soup, she just let out a burp, climbed into my arms, and fell asleep. Looking at these monster-like disciples, I felt quite pleased. I opened the system panel to check. The cultivation seal had been released by percent. I feel now that as long as I wish, a single slap could seal that crack in the sky shut. In the dead of night, the disciples had all returned to their rooms to stabilize their cultivation. After washing the dishes, Leng Kinkyu obediently squatted in the corner of the woodshed, meditating. I lay on the rocking chair in the yard, looking at the starry sky, feeling this rare tranquility. Suddenly, I felt movement in my arms. I looked down. Little Su Yao had woken up at some point. In her hand, she tightly gripped a small piece of wood I carved for her 2 years ago from scraps, a little wooden carving. Tear stains still hung from the corners of her eyes. Her large eyes filled with an indelible sadness. What's wrong, Yao Yao? Does your stomach hurt from eating too much meat? I quickly sat up and touched her forehead. Su Yao shook her head, buried her small face in my chest. Her voice muffled. Brother Fan, I just had a very, very long dream. In the dream, there was a very, very large world. Everywhere was on fire. The sky turned black. Many bad people held weapons, just like the people in the sky today weapons, hunting my father and mother. The little girl's shoulders trembled. To protect me, father and mother put me into a very, very cold large bronze box inside. They said to me, Yao Yao must survive, see a world without war on our behalf. Then they pushed me into the black void. Brother Fan, I'm not an orphan at all. I'm a jinx who caused my parents' deaths, right? If it wasn't to protect me, they were so powerful they surely could have escaped. Hearing these words, my heart suddenly tightened, recalling the creation bronze coffin I saw in the ancient ruins. It turns out it wasn't an ancient tomb at all, but a life pod used to escape across endless star regions. Su Yao was actually carrying the destruction of a whole world and a deep sea of blood feuds. I sighed. I held this little girl, who is usually incredibly strong but now fragile as a porcelain doll, tightly in my arms. Nonsense. Your parents risked their lives for you to survive, so you can eat meat and soup happily every day. Not to shed golden beans here. I gently patted her back. There is no such thing as a jinx in this world. Only hammers that aren't hard enough for forging. Remember, this blacksmith shop is your home. If the sky falls, your brother Fan will hold it up, even if the villains who destroyed your hometown find us. Brother Fan will stuff them into De Chang's iron pot and stew them for you to eat. Su Yao lifted her small face covered in tears and looked at me steadily. Brother Fan, you're so kind. When Yao Yao grows up, Yao Yao will protect you. I was amused by her acting like a little adult. I pinched her nose. Fine, fine, protect me when you grow up. Now hurry back to sleep. We have to wake up early tomorrow to buy cabbage in town. Watching Su Yao run back into the room with her short legs, I leaned back in the rocking chair. My gaze became profound. It seems the myriad realms are more chaotic than I imagined. Even a child as cute as Su Yao has to suffer such misery. It seems I need to speed up my forging progress. At least I must forge a set of top-grade divine gear for each disciple. Early the next morning, while I was still dreaming in bed, Chu Feng was pacing anxiously outside the door. Master, something is wrong. Our blacksmith shop has run out of food. I yawned and pushed open the door. What do you mean, run out of food? Didn't we just stew a killin' yesterday? Chu Feng pointed to the empty courtyard with a bitter face. The charcoal is all burned out. Junior brother De Chang says he can't cook without fire. And the iron ores you bought yesterday were all smashed into powder by my hammer. Now we can't even find a piece of scrap iron. I slapped my thigh. Only then did I remember. Although that large bronze anvil possesses the power of creation, its consumption of materials is also terrifying. When ordinary mortal iron is placed on it, it turns to ash before it's even struck. I must buy some high-grade spirit ores, but I felt my empty pockets. The blacksmith shop didn't have many savings to begin with. These past few months, we've only been fighting. Not a single farm tool has been sold. Where is the money to buy high-grade spirit ores? My eyes darted around. My gaze fell on the pile of junk in the corner of the yard there. Those were the farm tools Chu Feng ruined, using the bronze anvil these past few days. There were crooked hoes, chipped kitchen knives, and fire pokers burnt pitch black. I've got it. I clapped my hands. Chu Feng Muzu, you two load these things onto the cart. We'll go visit the Tianbao Pavilion in the city today. Chu Feng looked bewildered. Master, why are we going to Tianbao Pavilion? That's the largest cultivator trading house within 100,000 miles. The things inside are incredibly expensive. Poor wretches like us will probably be kicked out. I glared at him. Who said we are going there to buy things? We are going there to sell things. Bring all these top-grade magic treasures with me. Today we're going to make a killing. Muzu looked at the chipped knife that looked like a dog had chewed at the kitchen knife. Her mouth twitched slightly. Master, you call this a top-grade magic treasure? I nodded solemnly. What? Do you look down on the knife your senior brother forged? Stop talking and load the cart. The four of us, along with the newly appointed rough-work maid, Leng Kinkyu, pushing a broken wooden cart, set off grandly toward Tianxuan city, hundreds of miles away. At our current pace, a few hundred miles takes only as long as a meal. Tianxuan City is an affiliated city of the Tianxuan Sect. Extremely prosperous, cultivators flying on swords were everywhere on the streets. Tianbao Pavilion was located in the very center of the city. It was a 9-story glazed treasure pagoda towering into the clouds. It was exceptionally magnificent. Just as we pushed our broken cart to the entrance of Tianbao Pavilion. We were stopped by 2 guards dressed in brocade. Go away, go away. Where did this bumpkin come from? Go beg for food elsewhere. This is Tianbao Pavilion. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed inside. The guards looked at us with faces full of disdain, especially upon seeing the cart full of black lumps of iron. They even covered their noses. Chu Feng had a fiery temper. He was about to explode on the spot. Master, let me smash this broken tower with one hammer blow. I stopped Chu Feng. I gave the guards a kind smile. Dear brothers, we are here to consign magic treasures for auction. Please be lenient with us. Consign magic treasures. The guard looked as if he had heard the biggest joke of his life. You dare call the scrap metal on this broken cart magic treasures? You dare call them magic treasures? Do you think I'm blind? Get lost now, or I'll break your dog legs. Just then, an old man in a magnificent robe walked out of the pavilion. He frowned and scolded. What is all this noise? Where is the decorum? The guards quickly switched to a flattering smile. Manager Lee, these beggars insist on consigning magic treasures, bringing a pile of broken farm tools to cause trouble. I was just driving them away. Manager Lee gave us a casual glance. His gaze paused briefly on Leng Qinkyu. He seemed to find her familiar, but didn't think much of it. He waved his hand impatiently. Drive them away, drive them away. Don't let them affect the business of our Tianbao Pavilion. I sighed. Modern cultivators really have no discernment at all. Muzu, just take any kitchen knife and open this manager's eyes. Expressionless, Muzu picked up the chipped kitchen knife from the cart. She casually threw it toward a nearby stone used to test the power of magic treasures. The sword-testing stone. That was a sword-testing stone made of 10,000-year black tortoise rock. Even a full-force strike from a nascent soul cultivator could only leave a faint mark on it. The chipped kitchen knife tumbled slowly through the air, appearing to have no lethality at all. Manager Lee sneered. This is sheer nonsense. If this piece of scrap metal can leave a mark on the sword-testing stone, I will eat this stone. Before he could even finish his sentence, there was a very faint PSSH sound. Just like cutting through tofu, that broken kitchen knife was not only not deflected, but instead sank directly into the sword-testing stone, without even leaving the handle visible. A deathly silence fell over the entire area. The guard's jaw practically hit his toes. Manager Lee's cloudy old eyes instantly widened more than a bull's, even larger. His eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. He walked tremblingly to the sword-testing stone and touched the cut that was as smooth as a mirror. A surge of extremely restrained, yet terrifyingly destructive sword intent rushed through the cut, pressing directly against his soul, frightening him so much that he collapsed onto the ground with a thud. How is this possible? No spiritual energy fluctuation, yet it could easily slice through 10,000-year black tortoise rock. This is the great Tao in its simplest form. This is a peerless, immortal artifact. Manager Lee scrambled up frantically, pouncing on our broken cart like a hungry wolf, his hands trembling as he held up a mud-stained hoe. Tears streamed down his old face. Top grade. They are all top grade. Heavens, in my lifetime, I can actually see so many immortal grade supreme treasures. I sat on the edge of the cart, swinging my legs. Manager Lee, do you want this broken stone steamed or braised? I can even process the large intestines for you for free. Manager Lee suddenly snapped back to reality and slapped himself in the face regardless of his image. Senior, please forgive me. This junior was blind and has slighted you, senior. Quick, quick, quick. Please come inside. Today, Tianbao Pavilion happens to have a once-in-a-century supreme auction. If Senior uses these magic treasures as the finale, it will definitely shake the entire cultivation world. Surrounded by Manager Lee, we swaggered into the highest floor of Tianbao Pavilion's VIP private box. The box was decorated extremely luxuriously, with rare spiritual fruits and immortal tea laid out on the table. Leng Qinkyu stood behind me and conscientiously massaged my shoulders. Chu Feng and Muzu curiously looked down at the sea of people in the auction hall. The auction began shortly after. The earth-grade techniques and 10,000-year herbs auctioned were nothing more than trash in our eyes. My disciples didn't even bother to glance at them. Zhu Dacheng, however, was quite interested in a ginseng that looked like a large radish. He said it would probably taste great in a stew. Finally, the grand finale arrived. The chief auctioneer was a charming and seductive woman. With a trembling voice, she announced to the crowd, "Distinguished guests, the next item to be auctioned will overturn your understanding of magic treasures. This is a treasure capable of suppressing the providence of leading sects." As the red cloth was suddenly swept away, the entire auction hall became so silent that even a needle dropping on the floor could be heard. Resting on the display stand was none other than a blackened fire-poking stick. The hall fell silent for 3 seconds, then erupted into deafening laughter. Has the Tianbao Pavilion gone mad? Using a fire-poking stick to fool us. I have plenty of this junk in my kitchen. Do they think we're just fools with too much money? Facing the doubts and ridicule of the crowd, the auctioneer didn't panic at all. She carefully put on a pair of specially made heavenly silk gloves. She gently picked up the fire-poking stick and walked to the testing array in the center of the hall. Everyone, please watch closely. This array is a top-grade defense array personally set up by a soul transformation stage expert. She didn't inject any spiritual energy, but simply, like striking a wooden fish, she lightly tapped the light screen of the array with the fire-poking stick. Crack! A piercing sound of shattering echoed through the hall. Under the horrified gazes of everyone, the top-grade defense array, claimed to be unbreakable even by a peak soul transformation expert, was like a fragile pane of glass, instantly covered in spiderweb-like cracks. Then, with a loud bang, it completely exploded into a sky full of spiritual fragments. The laughter in the hall stopped abruptly. Everyone looked like ducks with their necks squeezed, mouths wide open, unable to make a sound. What kind of monster artifact is this? It shattered a soul transformation array just with its material. If spiritual energy were injected, imagine the power. Starting price, 1 million top-grade spirit stones. Each bid must increase by at least 100,000. The auctioneer struck the gavel. The hall instantly fell into a frenzy of bidding. 2 million, 3 million, I'll bid 5 million. I'll buy it even if I go bankrupt. Listening to the numbers climbing rapidly, Chu Feng swallowed hard. Master, are we going to be rich? I broke this fire-poking stick yesterday and threw it in the corner. If I'd known it was this valuable, I would have broken more. I picked up my teacup and took a sip. Stay calm, stay calm. You look like you've never seen the world. Later, take the money and buy up all the top-grade iron mines in the city for me. In the end, the fire-poking stick was bought by a mysterious masked elder for the astronomical price of 15 million top-grade spirit stones. Not only that, all the farming tools we brought were snapped up. The Tianbao Pavilion not only waived our processing fees, but even gave us a top-tier purple-gold black card. We pushed our empty cart back, returning laden with wealth. Zhu Dacheng bought several carts of high-grade demonic beast meat and rare ingredients in the city. As for Chu Feng, he cleared out all the top-grade spirit mines from several large merchant houses in the city. On the way back to the small town, the setting sun stretched our shadows long. Everyone was chatting and laughing, as if we had just gone to the market for groceries. Just as we were about to reach the town, I suddenly stopped in my tracks, my eyes narrowing slightly. Behind me, Len Kinkyu sensed something was wrong, and nervously gripped the broom in her hand. Come out. Don't you find it uncomfortable hiding in the trees feeding mosquitoes? I called out slowly toward the dark little grove in front of us. Just as I finished speaking, there was a rustling sound in the woods, and several ragged figures leaped down from the canopy, blocking our wooden cart. Leading them was an old man with one arm missing, his entire body covered in old scars deep to the bone. His aura was as weak as a flickering candle in the wind, but those eyes were staring intently at Su Yao, who was hiding behind me. Seeing this, Chu Feng immediately stepped forward, dark golden lightning flickering around his body. Master, these old beggars look malicious. How about I send them away with one hammer blow? Len Kinkyu also tightened her grip on the broom, ready to attack at any moment. To our surprise, the one-armed elder did not resist, but instead fell to his knees on the muddy ground. The people behind him also knelt down in unison. The elder's lips trembled, tears streaming down his face, mixing with the mud. Little princess, this old servant has finally found you. That call of little princess left us all stunned. Su Yao poked out half of her fluffy little head. Her big eyes were full of confusion. Old grandfather, you must have the wrong person. Brother Fan picked me up from the snow. I'm no princess. The old man kowtowed repeatedly in excitement. Blood seeped from his forehead as it hit the stone. Trembling, he pulled a piece of ragged cloth from his chest. Inside the cloth was a dull, crack-filled stone. Little princess, this old servant could not be mistaken. You carry the aura of the creation bronze coffin. Years ago, our world was ruthlessly destroyed by the true immortals of the upper realm. As the nation fell and families were torn apart, the sovereign and queen spent the last of their soul power to send you into the void. A few of us old bones fought desperately to break through the sea and searched for you for 3 whole years in this broken cultivation world. Hearing this, Su Yao's chubby little body suddenly. She stared blankly at the stone in the old man's hand. Tears instantly flooded her big eyes. That bond originating from the depths of the bloodline cannot be deceived. She stumbled forward and hugged that cold stone. She wailed heart-wrenchingly. Father, mother, Yao Yao misses you so much. Yao Yao has been eating well every day. But why did you leave Yao Yao? Seeing the little girl who is usually strong enough to lift hundreds of pounds of anvils, the little girl, now crying like a helpless kitten. My heart suddenly felt as though it were being pricked by needles. Chu Feng clenched his fists, his eyes reddening. Mu Zhu turned her head away, silently wiping her tears. Even Zhu Dacheng, that heartless fat man, was sniffing his nose. The old man was overcome with tears. Little princess, the sovereign and queen did not abandon you. Inside this creation soul stone, the last remnants of their fragmented souls are still sealed. As long as we can find the legendary Daluo immortal, perhaps their consciousness can be restored. To see their most beloved daughter, hearing that her parents could be saved, Su Yao suddenly turned around, ran to me clutching the stone, her small hands gripping the corner of my clothes tightly, and fell to her knees with a thud. Brother Fan, I beg you, please save my father and mother. Yao Yao will eat less meat and work more from now on. Yao Yao won't be naughty anymore. I beg you, Brother Fan. I quickly pulled her into my arms, heartache as I rubbed her little head. Silly girl, why be so formal with Brother Fan? Never mind a sliver of a remnant soul. Even if the soul had truly scattered to the winds, Brother Fan would go to the underworld and tear up the book of life and death. My disciple, Lin Fan's disciple, who dares to make her shed a tear? I turned to look at Chu Feng. Bring all the top-grade spirit ores we just bought. We're going home now. No customers today. The blacksmith shop is going to fire an unprecedented great furnace. Chu Feng's spirit lifted, and he answered loudly. Those old retainers looked at each other, clearly not believing an ordinary blacksmith shop could save someone who only had a sliver of a remnant soul. But I couldn't be bothered to explain. The group marched grandly back to the town. Upon returning to the blacksmith shop, I had Leng Kinkyu shut the main gate tightly and hung a sign saying, "Blacksmithing in progress, no entry." Hung a sign saying, "Blacksmithing in progress, no entry." Then I walked to the creation bronze anvil in the center of the yard in front. I took a deep breath. I put away all the kitchenware given by the system. Tonight, there will only be the purest blacksmithing here. Disciples, listen up. I looked around at the 4 disciples standing straight. Chu Feng, Mu Zhu, Dacheng, Su Yao, all present. Today, your master will forge 2 physical bodies. Not only must the meridians be reshaped, but they must also withstand the backlash of the heavenly Tao. Dacheng, go start the fire. Use your 9 nether karmic fire to raise the furnace temperature to the maximum. Do not stop until I give the order. Zhu Dacheng patted his chest and guaranteed, Master, rest assured, even if all the fat on my body is drained today, the fire will not diminish by a single bit. Chu Feng, your Nirvana lightning body is responsible for refining impurities. When the spirit ore turns into liquid, use your lightning to shatter all the impurities within, ensuring the material is absolutely pure. Chu Feng gripped the blacksmith hammer, the fighting spirit burning in his eyes. This disciple obeys. Mu Zhu, use the sword intent of the heaven-slaying blood sword to carve the soul-gathering array onto the reshaped bones. Not a single stroke can be wrong. One mistake and the soul will be scattered. Mu Zhu drew her longsword, her expression extremely solemn. Master, rest assured, as long as the sword is here, I am here. Finally, I looked at Su Yao, whose eyes were red and swollen. Yao Yao, you are the key. Once the physical body is formed, you must integrate your creation power and bloodline aura into it. Only then will your parents' souls not reject this new body. Su Yao nodded vigorously, wiping away her tears. Brother Fan, I am ready. With my command, the entire blacksmith shop instantly became a giant furnace. Zhu Dacheng roared. Heaven-burning creation body, full power. That large black pot turned into a furnace. Dark purple 9 nether karmic fire soared into the sky, illuminating the entire night sky as if it were day. I took dozens of sacks of top-grade spirit ores bought from Heaven Treasure Pavilion and dumped them all into the furnace. 10,000-year mysterious ice iron, 9 heavens astral steel, phoenix blood-weeping gold. These peerless treasures, any one of which could trigger blood rain and violent storms in the outside world. Now they were like worthless cabbage, ruthlessly melted. Too slow, I frowned, grabbed the worn-out palm leaf fan beside me, and fanned the furnace vigorously. With a loud boom, tongues of fire shot up 100 zhang into the air. Under the terrifying heat, the spirit ores quickly turned into a pool, emitting 7-colored, radiant liquid essence. "Thunder come!" I shouted loudly. Golden light flared in Chu Feng's eyes, and he leapt into the air. Countless bolts of dark gold violent thunder followed his fist, and smashed fiercely into the pool of liquid essence. Amidst the crackling sounds, the impurities were blasted into ash, leaving only the purest essence of heaven and earth. I casually picked up the ancient heaven-slaying sword I hadn't used in a long time, which had become a worn-out iron tong, and gripped that mass of scalding essence liquid, placing it steadily on the creation bronze anvil. Then I closed my eyes and gripped the worn-out hammer I used for forging. When I opened my eyes again, my entire aura had undergone a drastic transformation. Gone were the usual laziness and indifference, replaced by a supreme majesty that seemed capable of creating the world. Watch closely. This is the ultimate secret of forging. Heaven and earth furnace, all things ever living. The hammer in my hand became a blur of afterimages, every strike carrying the rhythm of the great Tao. Clang, 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 clang. The crisp sound of forging echoed through the clouds. The entire town and the land for 10,000 miles around followed this forging rhythm, trembling slightly. Under my hammering, that 7-colored liquid gradually split into 2 masses, beginning to outline the shape of human bones. Muzu seized the moment, her figure flickering like a ghost through the sparks. The tip of the heaven-slaying blood sword danced rapidly across the bones, carving complex and profound ancient soul-gathering array runes. Just then, dark clouds suddenly filled the sky. Fierce winds raged, a world-destroying pressure of the heavenly Tao descended violently, defying heaven to change fate and reshape the soul is absolutely forbidden by the laws of heaven and earth. The heavenly Tao was enraged. A colossal eye of thunder slowly opened in the dark clouds, staring coldly and ruthlessly at our tiny blacksmith shop. Several purple, enough to split Mahayana cultivators into powder, world-destroying thunder punishments were brewing frantically in the horizon. The old servants were so terrified they collapsed to the ground. Heavenly punishment. This is heavenly punishment. We are doomed. Leng Kinkyu's face also turned pale, gripping the broom tightly. Although Chu Feng and Muzu were afraid, they gritted their teeth and held on tight. The hammer in my hand didn't stop for a single moment. I only frowned slightly, seeing the furnace fire being suppressed by the heavenly Tao's pressure and becoming weak. Zhu Dacheng was drenched in sweat and about to collapse. I snorted coldly. "You big eyeball in the sky. You've come just in time. My furnace just happened to need someone to work the bellows." Just as the heavenly punishment was about to strike, I suddenly reached my left hand toward the sky. I directly used the system's advanced all things reflection ability in reverse, turning it into an irresistible and terrifying suction. That haughty eye of heavenly thunder, without even a chance to resist, was forcibly dragged down from the clouds by me, landing with a splat beside the furnace. The eye of heavenly Tao was completely stunned. The dignified heavenly Tao, holding the power of life and death over all things, was actually snatched down by a mortal like a little chick. Before it could even react, I kicked it right on its eyelid. "What are you staring at? Blow for me." Thunder attributes are perfect for fueling the fire. If the fire weakens, I'll beat you into a lump of coal. The eye of heaven was so aggrieved it almost shed tears, but it could feel that aura on me, which was higher than its own by countless dimensions of terrifying power. A brave man doesn't suffer immediate losses. The dignified incarnation of the heavenly Tao could only humiliate itself by puffing its cheeks, spitting world-destroying purple lightning into the furnace, helping Zhu Dacheng make the 9 nether karmic fire burn brighter. This scene completely shattered the world views of those old retainers. The heavenly Tao is actually pumping the bellows for a blacksmith. Is this a dream? With the addition of the heavenly Tao's lightning, 2 perfect physical bodies were finally completed. Those bodies were crystal clear, exuding an aura more terrifying than immortal artifacts. "Yao Yao, right now!" I gave a loud shout. Su Yao wiped the sweat from her face. Without hesitation, she bit her fingertip, dripping the essence blood containing the creation lineage onto the 2 foreheads of the bodies. Then she carefully held up the creation soul stone, drawing out the 2 remaining strands of soul within. As soon as the souls touched the 2 bodies, tempered by lightning and sword intent, They were immediately sucked in by the formation. The entire courtyard erupted in a blinding white light. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. As the white light gradually faded, 2 tall and slender figures lay quietly on the bronze anvil on it. Following that, a faint but steady heartbeat sounded in the courtyard. Thump. The man and woman lying on the bronze anvil opened their eyes. Their eyes were confused at first, then gradually regained clarity when they saw Su Yao lying beside them, crying with snot bubbles on her face. Su Yao. Tears instantly welled up in their eyes. Yao Yao, the woman's voice, though weak, was filled with endless benevolence. Su Yao dove into the woman's arms, crying loudly, "Mother." Yao Yao thought she would never see you again. Su Yao was crying loudly, "Mother." Yao Yao thought she would never see you again. The man also reached out with trembling hands, holding the mother and daughter tightly in his arms. The family of 3 wept together. Those old retainers were so moved that tears streamed down their faces, kowtowing incessantly on the ground. "Heaven blesses our nation." Chu Feng, Muzu, and Zhu Dacheng all silently turned their heads, secretly wiping away tears. Even the Eye of Heaven, whom I pressed to the ground to pump the bellows, was so moved it blinked, a drop of lightning tear falling from its eye. I casually tossed the Eye of Heaven back into the sky, like throwing a ball. "All right, you're done here. Go stay wherever it's cool." The Eye of Heaven felt as if it had been granted a general amnesty, slipped quickly into the clouds, running faster than a rabbit. The clouds filling the sky instantly dissipated. Sunlight once again shone upon the blacksmith shop's courtyard. Su Yao's parents, supported by their daughter, walked up to me. They could tell that this blacksmith, who looked like a mortal, was actually an unfathomable, peerless master. The 2 knelt down without hesitation. "Senior, your kindness and grace. We as a couple cannot repay you, even if we bind grass and carry rings. If Senior does not mind, we are willing to serve as cattle and horses in the blacksmith shop." I quickly helped them up, patting the man's shoulder. "Stop kneeling at every turn." Patting the man's shoulder. "Stop kneeling at every turn. My blacksmith shop doesn't take in big shots. Since you have come back to life, just stay by Yao Yao's side. This girl has suffered a lot these past 2 years." Su Yao hugged my arm tightly. "Brother Fan is the best person in the world. He taught me how to eat, how to ford, and raised me to be so chubby." Hearing Su Yao's innocent words, everyone couldn't help but laugh. The previous atmosphere of tension and sadness vanished, replaced by the warmth of surviving a disaster. Ding! The system notification suddenly rang in my mind. "Congratulations, host. The eldest disciple's heart knot is completely resolved. Special constitution, Lord of Creation fully awakened. Congratulations to the host for completing all hidden disciple recruitment missions. Cultivation seal removal progress has reached 100%. Reward, ultimate title, Supreme of 10,000 realms." I closed my eyes, feeling the power within me, vast as a sea of stars and completely awakened. At this moment, with just a gentle breath, I could wipe this cultivation world off them. If I wished, I could create countless new universes in a thought. I am finally invincible in the world. The system's flattering voice continued to ring. "Master Host, you are now invincible across the heavens and myriad realms. Do you wish to ascend to the high god realm immediately and take over the rule of thousands of universes?" I opened my eyes and looked at this small courtyard, dilapidated yet full of life. Chu Feng was excitedly polishing newly made farm tools. Muzu was using a rag to carefully wipe her heaven-slaying blood sword. Zhu Dacheng was humming a tune while chopping vegetables in the kitchen. Su Yao was happily showing her parents that extremely ugly crocodile skin apron. Lang Qinkyu held a broom, with a heartfelt, serene smile on her face, sweeping the fallen leaves in the courtyard into a small pile. All of this is so ordinary, yet so real and warm. I took a deep breath of the air smelling of food, a bright smile curling on my lips. I said to the system in my heart, "Ascend my ass. Is the food in the high god realm as good as Dacheng's braised pork? Is ruling the universe as interesting as watching my disciples grow stronger every day? Just stay quietly in this blacksmith shop for me." The system seemed speechless, but could only honestly reply, "Yes, host, I wish you a happy time smithing." I walked to the center of the courtyard and flopped back into my exclusive rocking chair, picking up that worn-out palm leaf fan to fan myself. "Dacheng, Extra food tonight. Bring out your best hidden skills to celebrate Yao Yao's family reunion. Today we'll have a full demon feast. Zhu Dacheng's loud answer came from the kitchen. You got it, master. I guarantee everyone will swallow their own tongues today. Chu Feng leaned in and asked with a grin, Master, that firewood stick of ours sold for 15 million. We are the richest people now. Shouldn't we renovate this dilapidated shop tomorrow? I glared at him. Renovate what? This is called returning to simplicity. You don't know a damn thing. Keep swinging the heavy hammer for me tomorrow morning. If you miss a single strike, there'll be no dinner for you. Chu Feng wailed with a bitter face. Muzu rarely laughed out loud. Her crisp laughter echoed in the courtyard like silver bells. Lang Kinkyu walked over with a plate of freshly cut spirit fruits and placed them respectfully by my side. Please enjoy, senior. I took a piece of fruit and took a bite. Crisp and sweet. Life is just this simple and dull. I am clearly strong enough to slap an immortal emperor to death, yet I prefer to be a blacksmith in this broken shop, watching my disciples fooling around in the yard, listening to the symphony of pots and pans in the kitchen. I feel that this is the most perfect ending.